Simulcast on Big 12 Studios at big12studios.com, the Big 12 Fast Channel, airing via your Roku device, Amazon Prime TV, DirecTV, YouTube, and many other avenues. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Taman Turner on the controls. And we were told that, well, I guess we'll start with, we're calling it the week of breakout running backs. It's also apparently the week of breakout wardrobes as well, because you are rocking your Sweetness Chicago Bears tee, vintage tee.
Thank you. Yeah, Bears are the big one tonight, and so I'm excited about that, but super excited to talk about everything that happened on Saturday in the Big 12. 7 games, and as you mentioned, James, Week 7 seemed to be the week of the breakout running back. We saw some humongous performances, career performances from multiple running backs in the Big 12, so excited to dive on in. Plus, of course, we've got to check on the status of Behren Morton. There was some fireworks between Texas Tech and Kansas and the coaches in that one. So, yeah, a lot to discuss and break down here on this manic Monday. Just thinking of other M words. Nothing really came out quick.
Massive. Just a massive
manic.
It's a massive Monday. We were told Big 12 polos. You're wearing a vintage Bears T-shirt, so I just want you to know that the Big 12 Studios wardrobe floodgates are open.
Open.
They're open.
Open sesame.
Okay. Those rules have been tossed aside. All right? Big 12 polos were the rule. Already showed up in 1985, and I'm here for it.
You gotta let me express myself. That's
exactly.
It, if I'm gonna be doing this on video every day and waking up and having to put my face on.
Are you gonna wear your hair like that today?
Having to wear my hair like this every day. Do my hair. Get ready. I am going to be expressing myself artistically.
I love it. It's just
my
straight
clothing.
You know I'm jealous. That's what it is.
It's true.
That's what it is. Just straight jealousy. All right, we kick off each and every Monday with our Big 12 whip around. 1 minute on the clock. We go through each and every Big 12 game from the weekend that was. Taman will guide us through this. Taman, where do we start?
Kansas, Texas Tech.
This game was close for a while. Texas Tech wins it 42-17 to improve to 6-0 on the season, 3-0 in Big 12 play. Tech jumps out to a big lead. Cameron Dickey exploded on the very first offensive play for a 71-yard touchdown run. KU then fumbled. Turnovers were an issue. Texas Tech led 21-0. KU scores 17 points unanswered. At that point, you think, oh, the Hawks are right there with them. Texas Tech is getting tested. The second half, though, Texas Tech flexing their muscles. You mentioned that Texas Tech quarterback Behren Morton suffered a leg injury, did not return. Will Hammond came in, looked good as a runner, not so great as a passer. What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Kansas had the ball down 21-17 in the second half, and I thought an inside run play call on 3rd and 1 really killed them in this one, because after that drive stalled out, Kansas punts. Tech has a long run from Dickey that puts them ahead 35-17, and then they had another one to go 42-17, and then the game was pretty much done. Kansas had 74 rushing yards. Texas Tech had 372. So we'll have plenty more to say on this game, including the fireworks after the game between Lance Leipold and Joey McGuire, and what Lance Leipold had to say about the tortillas and
Coach
flags.
Leipold, he was heated.
Yeah, he was.
Post-game.
BYU, Arizona.
Man, this was a banger. An all-timer went into double overtime. BYU escapes with a 33-27 win to improve to 6-0. We've got a pair of undefeated teams still in the Big 12, 3-0 in league play. BYU jumped out to an early lead. Their ground game was humming with L.J. Martin. Parker Kingston caught a 75-yard touchdown when he just blasted away from the Arizona secondary. But Arizona continued to fight. Bear Bachmeier ran it in from 2 yards out with 19 seconds left. In overtime, we trade field goals, and then Bachmeier another rushing touchdown for BYU.
Yeah, this was classic Big 12 after dark. This game had everything. Wild plays, momentum swings, a weather delay, 2 overtimes. Bear Bachmeier made some mistakes in this game, but it was the 2 rushing touchdowns that he had that won it for him. And, yeah, L.J. Martin, we talk about breakout running backs. Cameron Dickey for Texas Tech, L.J. Martin for BYU. But this was a game of runs. BYU went up 14-0. Arizona came back with 24 straight, was up 24-14 in the fourth quarter with 11 to play, and then BYU closed on a 19-0 run.
And Bear Bachmeier, a very off night as a passer, just 12 for 29 passing, but BYU finds a way to win. Taman, what's next?
Arizona State and Utah.
Arizona State and Utah, the big story coming into this one. Sam Leavitt out for the contest. He's day-to-day. Utah pounded Arizona State 42-10. Utah's now 5-1, 2-1 in Big 12 play. Quarterback Devin Dampier for the Utes accounted for multiple early scores. He had a couple of rushing touchdowns, finished with a $120 on the ground. It was the week of the running back and the week of the running game because he had 3 rushing touchdowns for a Utes team that had almost 300 rushing yards.
Yeah, 4 first-half drives for Utah, 25 carries for 187 yards and 3 touchdowns. That was in the first half alone in their 4 first-half drives. So their ground game exploded the first half and really carried them to victory. They averaged 7.5 yards per carry in the first half, and that thing didn't go away. It was 21-3 at halftime. Arizona State cut the lead to 28-10 in the third quarter, but that was as close as they would get. Utah also had 5 sacks in this game, and Arizona State had been leading the conference in sacks, did not have a sack in this game. Yeah, without Sam Leavitt, not much of a chance here for Arizona State.
We'll discuss just what the message was from Utah. Was it a statement win for the Utes here in about 15? What's the next game?
Iowa State, Colorado.
Iowa State and Colorado. This was a stinky line going into this one. Iowa State favored by 1.5. Colorado looking for their first Big 12 win, and they grab it, 24-17. They really kind of controlled the tempo in this game. Caden Salter had 255 yards passing, a couple of touchdowns, including a 70-yarder to Amarion Miller. Rocco Beck, the Iowa State quarterback, very emotional post-game, disappointed in the loss as Iowa State drops their second in a row.
Yeah, and this one in many ways came down to a picked-up flag. It was a pass interference to the end zone that was intercepted on the pass, and clearly Ben Bramer was tackled before the pass got there. And yet the interception was allowed to continue, and the life was sucked out of Iowa State after that. They picked up the flag, a horrible no call. Iowa State did have chances after that. They were turned away on 4th and 1. And then on an inside run, Amari McNeil made a great play for Colorado. And then they got the ball back down by a touchdown, 24-17, with under 5 to play in all 3 timeouts, and they were not able to get it done. So credit Colorado's defense. Came up big in this one, but this one certainly came down to a huge picked-up pass interference penalty that was intercepted by Rocco Beck.
Man, Boulder was rocking. After the Dion surgery, you didn't know how that team would respond, and gets by far Colorado's biggest win of the season. Next up,
UCF and Cincinnati.
20-11 was the final score. Maybe a scoregami. Cincinnati moves to 5-1, 3-0 in Big 12 play. UCF falls to 3-3 and 0-3. They started Cam Fancher in this game. He threw for 222 and rushed for 108, but most of that was in the second half when the game was already out of reach. UCF never led. Cincinnati was very conservative. They didn't throw the ball a ton. I think late in the fourth quarter, Sorsby had only attempted like 16 or 17 passes in this contest. Cincinnati really leaned on their defense, and it felt like a day at the office for the Bearcats, just trying to get a win, get some rest, and get ready for their next one.
Yeah, the time of possession stat spoke very interesting in this game. UCF with 39 minutes, Cincinnati with the ball for 20 minutes and 16 seconds. So despite being basically minus 20 in the time of possession here, because UCF had some long drives that came away with 0 points. One drive was like insane. It was like a 15-play, 9-minute drive, 17 plays, 40 yards, 9:02 off the clock. Eventually, the drive ends with UCF punting on 3rd and 22. So, yeah, I thought Cincinnati's defense played exceedingly well to hold. They gave up yardage, but did not give up a ton of points in this one.
Houston and Oklahoma State.
Well, the big story in this one was the shirtless fan. The student that took his shirt off, whipped it around his head, was all alone in the upper deck of Boone Pickens Stadium. And then 1 became 2, and then 3, and then 10, and then 12, and then entire sections of Oklahoma State fans, shirtless men whipping their shirts around their heads, helicopter style. But Houston got the win, 39-17. I was pretty impressed by Houston. Oklahoma State started a wide receiver at quarterback. Now, he did play a couple of years at previous stops at that position, but Oklahoma State looked really overmatched in this game. Connor Wegman had over 300 yards passing. Houston gets the dub.
Yeah, Oklahoma State with just 10 first downs in this game. Their biggest play of the season came on a double pass. It was a touchdown pass thrown by Shamar Rigby. There are now 4 Oklahoma State quarterbacks that have thrown a touchdown pass this season, so it gives you a sense of, that they haven't gotten a ton of production from the quarterback position because 2 of those are not quarterbacks that have thrown touchdown passes. Dean Connors may have had the catch of the season, the running back with one hand grabbed in the air on a touchdown. And, you mentioned the 40-year-old. It was started by a 40-year-old.
It wasn't a student. It was a 40-year-old.
Yeah, dude our age started
Even
it.
better.
And, that was the highlight of this game, certainly for Oklahoma State, is their fans were not quitting.
I mean, Taman has been begging for us to do this opening segment shirtless. We said, Taman, come, we're professionals.
Yeah.
Okay?
Next week.
Next week, he says. Okay, we've got more games.
TCU at Kansas State.
What in the world was that in Manhattan, Kansas? Where did that come from? The Kansas State defense was all over the field. They were connected. Desmond Purnell had 2 interceptions, the K-State linebacker, a pick 6 as Kansas State rolls 41-28 over TCU to move to 3-4. They dropped TCU to 1-2 in Big 12 play. Avery Johnson threw 3 touchdown passes, 2 of them to his tight end, Garrett Oakley, to seal the game in Manhattan.
Yeah, this thing went from bad to worse for Josh Hoover. So in the second quarter, they throw a pass behind the line of scrimmage. It's called a lateral. Ed Small can't grab it, and it's a defensive touchdown for K-State. And then Purnell in the third quarter has a pick 6. So 14 points from the K-State defense is what got K-State out to a huge lead in the second half. And, after that, it was kind of over because TCU's defense could really do nothing to stop Garrett Oakley and Joe Jackson and the K-State rushing attack. But, yeah, this game was close until the 2 defensive touchdowns by K-State put this thing really out of reach for TCU.
That's all we got, guys.
That's it. The Big 12 slate. Your winners, Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, Colorado, Cincinnati, Houston, and Kansas State in a wild Week 7 of Big 12 football. The fireworks in Lubbock, Texas. This game was wild on the field. This game was electric, nationally televised. And then post-game, there were words exchanged between Texas Tech coach Joey McGuire and Kansas coach Lance Leipold. Lance was upset about the objects that were being thrown on the field following the loss, tortillas, even mentioned a pocket knife at one point in time. So let's hear what Lance Leipold said after the game about the entire situation.
Very poorly. Our conference office and Scott Draper and them were very poor at handling it. They said one of the officials almost got hit and tried to throw a flag and it got picked up, so that was disappointing. We have a policy put in that wasn't followed through, so I was very disappointed on how that was. It's obviously they have a great crowd. They really get into it and do some things, but I know the officials were just as frustrated after the one penalty was picked up by whatever they call the rock, wherever that is, where it sits. Say what it is. A pocket knife was thrown out and hit one of our staff members. So, it's ridiculous. It's supposed to be for safety and things like that, and it's a culture that's been accepted to a point, and it hasn't changed, and eventually somebody's going to be seriously hurt, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Leipold's going to hear from the Big 12 offices, I'd imagine, by calling out Scott Draper and even the building that we're currently in, the undisclosed location that is known as the Rock, where the instant replay center is for the Big 12. And Leipold is very upset about the handling of certain tortilla throwing. They were not penalized and flagged probably as much as they needed to be, given the implementation of the new rule, which was put in place because of Texas Tech and tortilla throwing. Now, if it's just tortillas, it's one thing. Leipold said, as you just heard there, that one of his staffers was hit in the third quarter by a pocket knife, what's being described as a Swiss Army knife. So, yeah, I mean, that's a little bit different than a tortilla, which is light and fluffy and airy. The knife pocket knife will absolutely do some damage. And, I mean, in the handshake, post-game handshake, Lance Leipold let Joey McGuire hear it. I mean, he was using some expletives to describe his feelings, given what he's saying about one of his staffers that was hit in the head with a pocket knife. It's one thing to have the tortilla. It's another thing to throw different objects on the field, and that's, I think, why the league implemented this new rule, and it's just not being fully enforced. And you have to wonder why.
The post-game handshake, I'm glad you brought that up because, Lance Leipold gives Joey McGuire, the Texas Tech coach, an earful, piece of his mind. And Joey McGuire initially apologizes and said, I know, man, I'm sorry. There's clips where you can actually hear the audio of their conversation. But then Lance continues to go at him, and that's when Joey starts to get defensive. Let's hear what Joey McGuire said, just his initial thoughts following Tech's win.
I'm frustrated. I know he was frustrated. We've got a new rule in this league, and we know the rule, and we didn't follow it, and we got penalized tonight, to 15-yard penalties, and he was frustrated on that side, and we got to be better. We've got to do a better job. We got to find a way to do a better job as a whole, all of us, and we will. I mean, we've got 2 weeks to have a better plan and get the point across of, what the rule is, because it's gonna catch up with us. I mean, the first one nearly did, because the game was a little bit tighter than what you wanted, but it's going to catch up with us, and it's frustrating because it's kind of like whenever I talk to the guys, make it about the football, and so if you get any kind of extracurricular penalties, like we had a 15-yarder late in the game, hey, you made it about you, and so if you're throwing tortillas more than once, now it becomes all about you. Really, are you? Is that a Red Raider? Is that you came to the game and you love this team and you're passionate about this team, but yeah, you're going to throw another tortilla and it's against the rules? So we've got to do a better job, and I've got to do a better job of expressing to the fans how important they are, because the atmosphere tonight was absolutely incredible, electric. We walked into the stadium. The students were already there. We came out during warm-up. The farthest student section was already filled. I mean, we have the best students in the country, and man, they rallied, and I thought it was great when the defense came on the field. But it's kind of like I tell my team, and I told Chris Lovell earlier, man, I think we've got a whole nother gear. We haven't come close to playing as good as we can play. I think this stadium and this fan base has a whole nother gear. I think we can be even louder, and I would focus on that. I think that's what we need to focus on whenever it comes to what we need to do as a fan base.
Texas Tech coach Joey McGuire post-game. It's okay to throw one tortilla. It's not okay to throw two. And they got penalized twice. 15-yard penalties. That's 30 yards wiped off the board. And he said eventually that will catch up to us. That is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. That was our Big 12 whip around. This is Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios, and coming up after the break, who made the biggest statement in the Big 12? This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league.
faster. Just search Premium or tell your device, listen to Sports Zone TuneIn to get in the game.
I'm Lane Livingston, and I play center at West Virginia University. You're listening to Big 12 Radio exclusively on TuneIn.
From your speakers to now your screen, it's Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us via Big 12 Studios, your headquarters for all things Big 12. And he's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We've got Taman Turner on the controls. It is a league that is built on quarterback play. It is the year of the quarterback in the Big 12. But Week 7, man, the running backs really stole the show. Who stood out to you? What does that say about, is there a balance of power in the Big 12? Almost every game, all but one Big 12 game over the weekend, had a 100-yard rusher. And several games had more than one, had multiple 100-yard backs or quarterbacks in the case of Devin Dampier.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of takeaways from Week 7 in the Big 12, James. I mean, I think you start with the week of the running back, as you said, the emergence of Cameron Dickey, Abu Sama in a losing effort for Iowa State had a career day. L.J. Martin had a career day for BYU. So, and that's, I mean, Joe Jackson at K-State broke out in the second half after the defensive touchdowns and really put the game away. I think the other takeaways are everybody's chasing Texas Tech right now. They're clearly the class of the Big 12 as they've won now 6 straight by at least 24 points. And then how good is Utah? How good is Houston? As Utah has just the one loss to Texas Tech. Houston has the one loss to Texas Tech. How good are they? And then we get the Holy War next week, BYU and Utah, Week 8, which is a humongous game in the Big 12 Conference between undefeated BYU and one-loss Utah in a game that will be part of Big Noon Kickoff. So, yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaways are everybody's chasing Texas Tech, and how good is Houston, how good is Utah. I think we have a sense of who the rest is in terms of the top of the Big 12, but I guess at this point we're still not sure. And it's like, all right, Tech, how many losses are they going to have heading into the Big 12 championship game? And what's going to be enough in terms of losses to get the team that they're going to play in the Big 12 championship? Because I think it's obvious that, 2 losses for Texas Tech seems far unlikely, but maybe 1 or 2 losses get you in to the Big 12 championship, and we'll see.
There are 2 undefeated teams left in the Big 12 in terms of overall record. Texas Tech and BYU. Those are the 2 highest-ranked teams in the most recent AP Top 25, which we'll touch on here in a bit. In Big 12 play, conference play alone, BYU, Texas Tech, Cincinnati are the 3 teams that are off to 3-0 starts. And then the updated standings have a logjam of teams at 2-1 with Houston, Utah, Arizona State, and Baylor. So you've got 4 teams that are 2-1 in Big 12 play. Big picture, I think that the deeper you get into the season with undefeated teams is a good thing for the league. I also think that the Kansas State win over TCU was really eye-opening to me in terms of the Wildcats are now just 3-4. They're still going to be fighting and clawing and scratching to get to a bowl game. But they remind me of Kansas last year when they were just spoiling season after season because they knocked TCU from a 500 Big 12 record to 1-2. Now where TCU's playing catch-up to get to 500 in Big 12 play, and I know it's just 3 weeks into the Big 12 slate, but TCU plummeted in the Big 12 standings. There's only 4 teams in the league that have a worse record in Big 12 play. So that was a huge game in Manhattan.
Yeah, and really following the Hoover game where, both Devin Gardner and Tim Brando were falling over themselves to talk about how good and underrated Hoover has been. I mean, he really played poorly down the stretch of the Arizona State game, in that game where Brando and Gardner were talking about him, and followed that up in a game here where he just had 2 mistakes that the TCU could not overcome. And, he had some long passes to Eric McAllister late in this game that I guess made the score look a little bit better. But, yeah, I mean, I think coming out of Big 12 play, we had a sense of who the top of the league was, and now that's been flipped on its head. And, each week you lose games, you get a different sense of where this conference is. And, I think, when Sam Levitt coming back, that is going to be a huge part to if Arizona State is a legitimate contender for the Big 12. And while I didn't think Sims played that poorly, there's clearly a huge drop-off between Sims and Sam Levitt. And then Cincinnati had a down offensive performance relative to what we've seen from them recently. That was a huge piece to come out of their Week 7 win, but this is partly like a survive and advance type situation. And they're 3-0 on the conference slate. So I have a feeling the conference championship will be an undefeated team versus a one-loss team. So it almost seems like if you've got 2 losses already, you're pretty much out of it.
And remember, last year, everybody had 2 losses in Big 12 play. It went right down to the final week of the Big 12 regular season.
Do you agree with that? Do you think the one of the I think Texas Tech is going to be undefeated. I just haven't seen a team I think that's capable of beating Texas Tech yet. Now maybe Texas Tech beats itself, but like BYU with a young quarterback, I'm not sure how they can get that done against a team like Texas Tech. Bachmeier's been phenomenal and was really good in this one, but had 2 mistakes and a third nearly completely cost them the game. Luckily, it was Safarchik for BYU that bounces on a fumbled football that Bachmeier fumbled to the 4-yard line, and we're not talking about an undefeated BYU team if he doesn't fall on that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that I agree with that yet. I could see BYU and Cincinnati losing 2 regular season big games. Like BYU is about to really face a brutal stretch in which if they go 2-2 in their next 4, that's a really good stretch for them. Cincinnati should win their next couple of games, but then it gets much tougher for them in November. But could I see a Utah or an Arizona State or even a Baylor who's kind of lurking at 2-1 in Big 12 play run the table the rest of the way? Maybe.
Let me ask you this. There's 4 2-loss teams in the Big 12 right now, at least. There's 6. Iowa State, Kansas State, Arizona, TCU. That's 5. Sorry. I can count. I promise you. Out of those 5, who's the best?
I don't know.
Kansas State, Iowa State, TCU, and Arizona. Who's the best?
I couldn't tell you. But I could say that those 5 teams or 6 teams are out of it.
Was it 5 or 6? 5.
5. 5.
It's those the counting numbers that get you every time.
I would say those 5 teams
are out of it.
Are out of it.
You think?
Because I believe that the 6 teams or 7 teams that have a better record in Big 12 play 3 weeks in, of those 7, 2 of those 7 will make the Big 12 championship.
Who's the most disappointing out of that group?
The group that has 2 losses?
Yeah. Now there's another group that has 3 losses, but I'm focused right now on the 2-loss group.
Sure.
Is it K-State or TCU?
Yeah, I think coming into the season it's Kansas State.
Or Iowa State.
And then I think you could make a case for Iowa State because they started 5-0. Their fans were clamoring, why aren't we in the top 10? We've had a as impressive as a resume 4 or 5 weeks into the season than anybody in the country, and then they drop back to back. If you're a Big 12 championship contender, if you're a Big 12 champion-level football team, you don't lose back-to-back games in Big 12 play. That's just – you simply don't do that. So I think you could make a case that from where we were 3 weeks ago to now, yeah, I think Iowa State fans are probably pretty disappointed. For Kansas State, if you look at the entire body of work, having 4 losses this deep into a season, 1,000%, that's the biggest disappointment in the Big 12. But I give Chris Klieman and the staff a tremendous amount of credit because they looked like a team that is capable of playing in a Big 12 championship game on Saturday against TCU.
Yeah, where has that defense been all year? Desmond Purnell was an absolute monster in this game. He was everywhere. He had 5 tackles. He had a sack, 2 tackles for loss. He had 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. He won this game for K-State, and you're left wondering, where has this been all year?
Yeah. And he's explosive. He's still, even though he's a veteran guy, he plays a little bit raw to his game. Like, he makes some misassignments, but then he makes up for it with huge plays like he did against TCU. And he's the other linebacker in that 4-2-5 defense alongside Austin Romaine. You brought up Sam Leavitt and his injury and the impact that it had on the Arizona State-Utah game. Arizona State coach Kenny Dillingham, this is 17 Taman, gave us an update on Sam Leavitt's injury status.
I'll say week to week. I think that's the fairest way to put it. I think we'll, evaluate it Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, and then see what happens on Tuesday, Wednesday, then make a decision from there.
Obviously, it's tough to know because we don't know what the injury is. It's been very ambiguous because it seemed to just prop up out of nowhere, and then it came out that had kind of been around, and they thought maybe it would go away during the bye week, which it hasn't. The other one is apologies to Behren Morton, because I don't know about you, but I was all in on Will Hammond, and Hammond against Kansas's defense was a lot different than the Hammond we saw against Utah's defense. And the way that Hammond played in the Kansas game, because he had to relieve Behren Morton in this one, you're left wondering how long Behren Morton's going to be out. Because Hammond, now he got it done, but it was the ground game that got it going. And it was both Hammond and Dickey on the ground. For whatever reason, Hammond really struggled to complete passes against Kansas' secondary, which is something he did with regularity against Utah, which is confusing. Utah's a much better defense than Kansas.
Right.
But for whatever reason, Hammond just struggled against Kansas' defense. And this is just a few weeks removed from what he did against Utah, and I'm out here saying he's the better quarterback out of the two. That made me look foolish.
Here's what Texas Tech coach Joey McGuire said about Behren Morton's injury.
It's the same thing that had happened against Austin. The first week, it's a calf, and we'll figure out what exactly it is.
It's a calf. It's not an AC joint. It's not a shoulder. It's a calf injury now that Behren Morton is dealing with for Texas Tech.
He's an old man. The injuries are piling up. Yeah, I was surprised by what Hammond looked like in this game. Hammond, in many ways, kept Kansas in this game. This game was 21-17 with Kansas having the ball in the third quarter. And it looked like they were about to drive. Like they had an 11-yard run by Daniels on first down and then basically 9 yards in the next two plays. And that completely became unglued on a 3rd and 1 where they tried an inside run and get completely blown up by a much better defensive front. The other injury in this game that we'll have to pay attention to this week is the injury to Skylar Gill-Howard. He was carted off the field in this one. You hate to see it. When you think about how good this Texas Tech team is, Skylar Gill-Howard's been one of the best, most consistent players in the interior of that defensive line. So that's something certainly to pay attention to because being carted off is never a good thing and never a good sign. Some couple of injuries for Texas Tech to pay attention to. But that's the nature of the beast. It's a very physical sport. Guys get hurt. Like the longer the season goes, the more injuries you're going to have to deal with. That's just a product of playing football.
Yeah, teams aren't getting healthier 8 weeks into the season. Will Hammond was effective on the ground. He had 8 carries for 61 yards, a couple of touchdowns, including a massive truck stick at the goal line. But as a passer, 7 for 16, 42 yards passing, and an interception against Kansas. Texas Tech still gets the win 42-17. He's Ariam James. Coming up next here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, via TuneIn, Big 12 Studios, via the Big 12 Fast Channel, a Week 7 Big 12 temperature check, plus some unsung heroes over the weekend. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league.
Still questions about the quarterback position.
It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. You can watch us via Big 12 Studios, streaming live on YouTube. We chat, we interact, we wear cool T-shirts. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling.
I kind of like, James, real quick, how much the Red Raiders are resembling real Raiders right now. And, Texas Tech is very much becoming the enemy of the state in the Big 12. And it's I'm here for it. It's super entertaining. They are dominant on the football field, the tortilla throwing, Lance Leipold saying after the game that a Swiss Army knife was thrown. These are the real Raiders here, it's reminiscent of the Oakland Raiders, where it's you didn't want to mess with the Raiders on the field. You don't want to mess with the Raiders fans, Raiders. It's playing out like that whole thing to me, and I'm here for it.
The fans in Lubbock are vicious in the best way.
Well, and you see a bunch of people on social media oh, does anybody have any video of this Swiss Army knife being thrown? I just love that. You got a coach, why would the coach claim that there was a Swiss Army knife thrown if there wasn't,
Pocket knife.
I need to see video evidence of it before I can substantiate that something was thrown.
I love it.
Okay. It's great. I'm here for it.
Texas Tech rolls 42-17.
Enemy of the state. I'm here for it.
And they very much are.
Raiders.
They're, because of how they constructed their roster, I think that there's a lot of built-in jealousy from a lot of fan bases around the league. We wish we could shell out that type of money and had a Cody Campbell in our back pocket, but Texas Tech did it very strategically, and it shows on Saturdays. This wasn't a roster that they just went out and grabbed the top 15, 20, 25 guys ranked on ESPN's transfer portal rankings. They went out and were very strategic about the guys that they brought in, and they were ground and pound against Kansas. And I felt like the weekend with the running backs and the running game in the Big 12, not just with Texas Tech, but also BYU and Kansas State, and albeit Iowa State in a loss, Abu Sama had that one massive breakout game that he seems to have every year against somebody, usually Kansas State, with 177 yards. I felt like it showed that the Big 12 hasn't necessarily completely shifted, but the Big 12 showed that it can play finesse. It can also be very physical, and offensive line play and run schemes have leveled up across the board in the Big 12. There were some incredible performances. It was grind and punish, and in a finesse league that's just all offense, I thought the league showed that, hey, man, we've got some muscle in the trenches.
Yeah. No, I well said. And, I think it was either Sonny Dykes a few years ago that said it at Big 12 Media Days, they did a deep dive into, trends over winning the Big 12. And one of the things that Sonny found was, and this shouldn't be a surprise, is the most physical running attacks traditionally win the Big 12. And this is a league of quarterbacks in 2025, but Week 7 was about the physical running styles and running games. And we've seen Cincinnati at times have a really physical running game. BYU looked the part this week. Texas Tech, as much as we talk about all the flash and all the players they've signed and brought in the portal, the running numbers between Kansas and Texas Tech give you a pretty good indication of, Kansas has been up and down in terms of the running games this year. They've had some really good games and some really bad games. But to have 74 rushing yards, Kansas averaged less than 2 yards per carry. 1.8. Meanwhile, Texas Tech, 400 yards rushing.
Yeah.
So, again, even if it's a league of the quarterbacks in 2025, we're still seeing the impact that quality physical running games are having across the league.
Texas Tech, in that win over Kansas, shattering rushing records. In fact, as the game was progressing, watching that game on Fox kept showing a graphic, most rushing yards since at least 2000, and the year just kept changing. They couldn't dig deep enough to find when the last time it was that Texas Tech had a rushing performance like that, and Coach Joey McGuire talks about the importance of being able to run the football.
Yeah, we felt like we could run the football against these guys, and those two guys feed off each other. Jacoby's a little banged up, and Cam got the majority of the load, and offensive line really played well tonight in the run game.
Cameron Dickey goes off for Texas Tech. It wasn't just him, though. Like, Will Hammond came in. He ran the football at a really high level. I thought it was the offensive line opening up holes. The quarterbacks had all day. They just couldn't hit receivers. And it was a show in Lubbock.
Yeah, I mean, I think both the Texas Tech outcome and the Utah outcome were byproducts of elite running games, and probably the BYU too. BYU, Utah, and Texas Tech. All three of those were just about elite running games. I mean, you think about Cameron Dickey was an absolute afterthought in the backfield for Texas Tech heading into the season. I mean, it was Quentin Joyner, it was Jacoby Williams if it was going to be any two. Joyner suffered an injury. Williams has been good. Dickey's probably been the most underrated back in the Big 12 the entire season. 21 for 263 and 2 touchdowns. And he had, 2 breakaway runs where there wasn't any Jayhawk within 20 yards of him. Kansas has struggled this year against the run wholeheartedly, but very much so in the interior of that defensive line. They are being moved off the ball in the interior. And again, this game was close. It was 21-17 in the third quarter. Kansas has the ball, and Kansas tries to go for a short yardage 3rd and 1 run in the interior. And even without Skylar Gill-Howard, Texas Tech said, "Thou shalt not pass."
Stonewalled. The 372 rushing yards for Texas Tech was officially, I knew Matt Dowdy would have this, their most in a single game since September 13th, 1997, when they had 453 against Louisiana.
And that's obviously not a Big 12 team.
Right.
So think about how many Big 12 games they played without even getting close to that. This is a Texas Tech outfit that under Mike Leach would not run that much, but we're starting to see how multifaceted and versatile Texas Tech is. Here's the thing. They're winning all their games by a bunch of points, but they're winning in different ways. They're winning on defense. They're winning with their running game. They're winning with their passing game. Like, just look at the full 6 wins that they've had so far, and they're stylistically winning a bunch of different ways. And that's the testament of a true good team is, one, health, which they have not had great health luck. I mean, their quarterback's been out of the lineup all season. Now they've got the Skylar Gill-Howard injury, and we'll see the severity of that, I'm sure, as the week progresses. They had an injury to running back. So they've had injuries. They've overcome those injuries. But it's, what do you do when a team tries to force you to play another style? What do you do if a team tries to take away the passing game? Now you run the football effectively. Kansas probably felt like if we take away the pass, we'll give ourselves a better chance in the run to have them have to churn out long yardage and have long drives, and that just obviously wasn't the case. I mean, they ran at will and did whatever they want on the ground. And especially, again, when Will Howard comes in the game and he can't throw, they had no answer for him or Cameron Dickey in this one.
Will Howard's in the NFL.
I'm going to do that a bunch. Thank you.
He's no Brendan Mott, but he can sling it.
He's no Will Hammond either.
Will Hammond. Saw like a Will Howard K-State tribute post the other day. Thought, man, I'm not saying K-State made the wrong choice, but Will Howard he fit very nicely into that K-State offense. Like, power run game. They ran him a ton at the quarterback position. Miss me some Will Howard. You brought up a great note about the Texas Tech running backs. They had Taj Brooks last year. Set the Texas Tech all-time career rushing record, had a billion yards on the ground. Was a big physical back, built like a linebacker. I remember at the tail end of last year asking Joey McGuire, well, what are you guys looking for at running back next season? Like, you're going to lose Taj Brooks. He's getting 30 carries a game, it feels like. And he said, we've got 2 guys that we really like, Jacoby Williams and Cameron Dickey. It's like, nobody knows anything about them. They're high 3-star guys from the Austin area. And he was really excited about those 2. But then they bring in Quentin Joyner. And so you think, okay, they just went and nabbed this USC transfer. Maybe Dickey and Williams, who are freshmen or were freshmen last year, maybe they're just not quite ready. Well, they have shown they're ready. they're ready. Cameron Dickey is a dude at running back.
Yeah, and he's got to be the most underrated back in the Big 12. Like, we know how good LJ Martin is. We know how good Devin Dampier is running the football. When you think about the rest of the backs in this Big 12, there have been some breakout performances. We saw Dylan Edwards have a big game. Joe Jackson had a big game this week. Dickey's been one of the most consistent runners in the Big 12 all year.
Some unsung heroes from Week 7. I go with Jackson at Kansas State. Joe Jackson, who was not expected to be the primary back for Kansas State at any point this season. It was expected to be Dylan Edwards. Joe Jackson is a Florida kid. He's from Haines City, Florida, the Orlando area. 6 foot, 212 pounds. He was kind of the third back last year behind DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards. Had a breakout game against TCU. 27 carries in that game, 110 yards for Kansas State. And now it's almost like K-State's gone all in with him. The Dylan Edwards, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Is he hurt? How hurt is he? Is he in the transfer portal? Is he not in the portal? What's going on there? K-State said, we're going to feed this kid 27 times against TCU. He was huge.
Yeah, another kind of underrated performance, unsung hero this week would be Caden Salter in a week where this was really about the running games. There are two quarterbacks that shined, Houston's Connor Wigman and Colorado's Caden Salter. And Salter's a guy that, this past week we were looking at, hey, is it Julian Lewis time? Like, Salter has just not been very good, not helping you win football games. And he came out and had a great performance, his best by far as a Colorado Buffalo. 16 of 22 for 255 and 2 touchdowns. He basically won the game with a throw to Joseph Williams over the middle. In a day where Iowa State really became unglued following a non-call pass interference, I thought Caden Salter was consistent throughout. And then Connor Wigman, he blew up. And, I think at this point we're left wondering, like, okay, Houston, Utah, BYU, how good are these teams? Yeah. Right? Because Utah got punked by Texas Tech, but's won every other game and has looked dominant in most of those. I think we know what the flaws of Utah, but so far, not enough teams have kind of forced them to have to become throwing football teams. It's one thing to know how you beat Utah. It's another thing to actually do it. Texas Tech did it, but so far nobody else has. And Houston, how good is Houston? Another only loss is to Texas Tech team. And they did a better job, Houston did defensively on Tech than Utah did. Remember, Houston held Texas Tech to a bunch of field goals. So, that seems like a very difficult thing to do. So at this point, we're almost left like, all right, who's had a close showing with Texas Tech, right? Because, they've won all their games by 24-plus points.
Yeah. Covered the spread in every game. That's next level.
And now they get an Arizona State team that's reeling following a one-sided loss to a Utah team with Jeff Sims at quarterback. Mm-hmm. So, we're going to know pretty quickly if Arizona State has a shot in this game by the status of Sam Leavitt.
Utah had been begging for explosive plays. They were getting some chunk plays. Kyle Whittingham was okay with that, but he said we need more explosives offensively. Ryan Davis on the receiving end, a 56-yard touchdown, 3 catches for 68 yards for Utah. A guy that had 700 yards receiving last year, was kind of their number one guy. He's an unsung hero, I think, for Utah, just finally breaking through against an Arizona State. Like, Sam Leavitt doesn't play defense. Arizona State's defense was what they felt like could keep them in this game.
Yeah.
I was more impressed by what Utah did offensively than anything else, scoring 42 points. Devin Dampier was fantastic, and they finally bust through with a 50-plus yard touchdown.
No, I think more than – like, the Jeff Sims piece stands out because, well, Arizona State didn't have its quarterback. So that's a big reason why they didn't win. But I think you're right. Like, Utah just won this game by absolutely destroying Arizona State on both sides of the ball on the line of scrimmage. Like, their offensive and defensive lines were phenomenal in this one. And that's – Arizona State had been number 1 in the Big 12 in sacks. It didn't have any in this game. Utah had 5, including 1.5 from your boy Daly. So I think that tells the story of this game. Jeff Sims was part of that loss, but more than anything, it was Arizona State just got owned up front on both lines of scrimmage.
Here's what Arizona State coach Kenny Dillingham. This is clip 19, said about Arizona State's loss and what it really came down to.
Yeah, it was a beating. I mean, they just dominated the football game. You got to give credit to them. Six possessions. I don't have a drive chart in front of me, but I believe 6 possessions, 7 touchdowns. First half, we shortened the game, which was kind of our plan going into it. Offense had 3 real drives. They had 4 real drives, which is good when you play a game like that. But we couldn't finish in the red zone again, which was catastrophic. And then they did, and they finished with scores. That just can't happen versus a team that is good with the lead. They just outcoached us, outplayed us, absolutely whooped our butt. I mean, it's the first time we've really gotten whooped like that in a long time. Like I said, I'm glad it's only worth 1 game. The challenge is, can you flush it enough to make it only worth 1 game? And that's what I told the team in the locker room. Like, that's the hard part, is how do you get it out of your system? Right? And you better do it quick.
Yeah, James, in the first 4 drives of this game, I brought this stat up already, but it's important to note that this game was put out of reach by their 4 drives because, as Kenny Dillingham said, they wanted to take the air out of the ball. 25 carries, 187 yards, and 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns and 4 drives, all 3 of them on the ground, 187 yards and 25 carries. That is 7.5 per carry. That's when this game was won by Utah.
Utah on first downs averaged 6.5 yards per rush. So, they were working ahead of the chains all night long. They only had 10 passing downs in the ball game. Leverage rate, field position rate, they dominated on both sides. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, and you're watching us via Big 12 Studios. That's Ari, I'm James. Taman on the controls. Coming up next, we dive into hour number 2. We'll look at the big picture. James Franklin is out at Penn State. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league.
2nd and goal.
We've got players, full breakdowns, and you've got a front row seat via Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn, and now streaming live on the Big 12 Fast channel via YouTube. Just search Big 12 Conference or Big 12 Studios. We're on Roku, Amazon Prime, DirecTV, even some local TV markets. That is Ari Timken. You can catch him on social at Ari Sports, A-R-I Sports. I'm James Westling on social at James Westling. Trent Dilfer got fired this weekend after UAB got destroyed by Florida Atlantic. James Franklin, he gone at Penn State. By the way, Texas Tech, Tom Fornelli, his updated top 5 CBS Sports Fornelli ratings. He's got his own analytical system that he uses. Texas Tech, number 1 in the nation. Indiana's number 2, Ohio State 3, Miami 4, Oregon 5, Texas Tech, numero uno, from Tom Fornelli.
Yeah, and he's not the only one. I think the Massey Index, which is widely thought of as a great predictive analytical tool, has Texas Tech, I believe it's top 5. So does the SP Plus, and yet the AP Top 25 does not. So we'll dig into the AP Top 25, which again just continues to be the bane of the Big 12's existence. But yeah, I mean, there were multiple coaches fired. You mentioned Trent Dilfer, who did not have the greatest tenure at UAB. 9-21 in 2+ seasons, including 4-8 and 3-9 the last 2 years. He's 2-4 with 3 straight 18-point-plus losses. Trent Bray was fired from Oregon State after their 0-7 start. And, James Franklin, as Northwestern knocks off Penn State. Another dreadful loss for James Franklin and Penn State. This time at home, they lose to Northwestern. And Franklin fired and owed $49 million in buyout money. You wonder if this changes across college football, where for some reason college football coaches have been able to work in these absurd buyouts. Congratulations to their agents who do a really good job of getting these buyouts put in, but I mean, it's absurd that these coaches, I mean, you think about Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher and Penn State and James Franklin. I mean, they have these contracts. They're so tied into these coaches. The coaches have so much leverage on recruiting and are able to tell a story to the organizations, administrations, and basically say, like, well, you need to give me X amount of years so that I can convince recruits that I'm going to be here for a long time, and yada, yada, yada. They get these absurd buyouts, and it's up to the teams to then pay the buyouts, and that's passed along to the fans. So $49 million in buyouts to James Franklin. We'll see, what Penn State's able to do in terms of hiring a coach. Obviously, Penn State has no shortage of dollars. So,
and only Jimbo Fisher's buyout was larger than James Franklin. I mean, it's the second largest buyout in college football history. And sources at Penn State are saying that Adidas drove the James Franklin firing. Remember, Penn State just signed this massive deal with Adidas. And apparently Adidas committed to pay for most or all of the money. They also wanted a new coach before the recent loss to Northwestern, but they made it hard for anyone at Penn State to argue until the loss to Northwestern.
Yeah, the headline there would be the paying the $49 million buyout.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
And because I don't think that Adidas is the reason that James Franklin got fired. I think the reason James Franklin got fired is because every time they went up against one of the top dogs, they lost. And though they won a lot of games, it was always the back of the mind of Penn State fans. There was a ceiling on their program and their team, which was not the case under Joe Paterno, where they won national championships and were competing at that level. So as long as they continue to win games, I think it was going to be a question on whether or not Franklin would be the coach. But now that they've lost games, right, like now they're losing games that Franklin never lost.
Right.
So the hand was forced in that way. You lose to UCLA, okay, let's see how they bounce back. But the Northwestern loss was the icing on the cake. You lose to Northwestern at home. It's now your second bad loss of the season. Was it 2 straight losses? Was the UCLA loss last week?
Yes.
Yeah, two straight losses here to, sub Big Ten teams.
Well, and Oregon's before that. They've lost 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, Adidas didn't make this happen, but Adidas may have made it happen from a monetary standpoint.
Yeah, Adidas made the if you let him go, we'll pay for it standpoint. The latest from Brett McMurphy on Texas Tech quarterback Baron Morton. Apparently X-rays were negative.
Good.
He is day-to-day. His status for Arizona State on Saturday won't be determined until later in the week. He left the KU game with a first-half leg injury that Joey McGuire said was a calf strain.
You've got to have Will Hammond ready to go, though. And not to say they don't, but, Baron Morton is showing his age to a degree here. And, he's just – I don't know that you can count on him being healthy for the entire season. And then the other one to pay attention to is Skylar Gale-Howard, who I'd argue is maybe a bigger loss than Baron Morton.
He's had a monster year, the defensive tackle, Texas Tech.
Congratulations to Indiana as we're going around college football. Indiana, man, since when did they become the top dog of the Big Ten? They knock off Oregon. Indiana had lost 46 straight against AP top 5 teams, and they are all-time 1-72 against AP top 5 teams, now 2-72 after their win over Oregon. An incredible win for Indiana. Indiana beat a top 5, top 10 Illinois team and now a top 5 Oregon team. I don't know who had Indiana football being a better program than Indiana basketball on their bingo card for the 2020s, but that has certainly happened.
I thought Indiana was a fluke last year.
Yeah.
And I knew that Kurt Cignetti could coach, but I felt like the way he was kind of running his mouth, for lack of a better term, during the offseason. He's very outspoken. He's very polarizing. He welcomes the attention, good or bad, to put Indiana on the map. I thought that they would have a major drop-off this year. New quarterback, Mendoza transfers in, who might be the front runner now for the Heisman. Like, people love this kid. After what he said post-game, shouting out to all the networks and all the national media partners. And then Ohio State thumping Illinois 34-16. They're just an absolute machine. Julian Sayin is probably in the conversation now for the Heisman. After Oklahoma loses to Texas, of course, Texas is back in the top 25 at 4-2. How about Ole Miss? They get a scare from Washington State. Washington State actually led a good chunk of this game.
Yeah, and this leads us to the top 25. The Big 12 has a rotating cast of characters in the AP top 25. It seems like 4 teams every week, which is good news because a couple of the ranked teams in the Big 12 lost this week, which you thought maybe would have ended that stretch, but still 4 teams ranked. Texas Tech at 7, BYU at 15, Utah at 23, and Cincinnati at 24. By the way, Utah has 1 loss. It's to a top 10 undefeated Texas Tech team, and yet they're somehow below a 2-loss Texas team. Notre Dame has 2 losses, and somehow they're above a 6-0 BYU team. I mean, and Ole Miss, look at their schedule and who they played. How are they ahead of an undefeated Texas Tech team? Texas Tech has wins over a Utah team with only 1 loss, and Houston, who only has 1 loss. And yet Ole Miss had to survive and only won by a field goal against Washington State and is somehow ranked in the top 5 ahead of Texas Tech. Every other metric has Texas Tech in the top 5 except for the AP top 25. It's egregious. And I cannot wait for the first college football playoff rankings of the season to come out because I really hope that they pay closer attention to some of the other ratings and metric systems, including the SP Plus and the Massey rating, because those are much higher on Texas Tech than the AP is. But we'll have a good sense of how closely does the College Football Playoff Committee pay attention to the AP Top 25, because most of the other metrics disagree with the AP Top 25. And, I mean, it's a joke. Ole Miss just beat a bad team by 3 points, and tomorrow is still ahead of an undefeated Texas Tech team that has more impressive wins. 2 wins over teams that only loss is to them. It's a joke.
And Texas Tech being the latest AP Top 25, by the way, is Ohio State 1, Miami 2. Indiana moves up 4 spots to number 3. Texas A&M checks in at number 4. Ole Miss is number 5. Alabama 6, and then it goes Texas Tech 7. 8, 9, and 10 is Oregon, Georgia, and LSU. Ole Miss at number 5, they drop 1 spot after a 3-point win over Washington State. I actually think I have a bigger problem with Texas Tech being 1 spot below Alabama. Now, I know Alabama's got the marquee wins. They beat Georgia. They beat Missouri on the road. But they lost Like, when are we going to start looking at the losses for some of these teams? They lost to a Florida State team that is reeling and has gone on to show that outside of their win over Alabama, they'll be lucky to make a bowl. Mike Norvell, by the way, was super pissed at his defensive coordinator after the game. He's yelling at him after they lost to Pitt over the weekend as they're entering the tunnel. So things are not good in Tallahassee. But Florida State's got one marquee win, and it's over Alabama. But Alabama's number 6, and Texas Tech is number 7.
I mean, can we just sit on that for a second here? Alabama lost to Florida State and is ahead of a Texas Tech team that has won every game by at least 24 points.
Florida State's no longer even receiving any votes in the AP Top 25.
Who are Alabama's wins against?
They beat
Georgia,
they beat Wisconsin, they beat Vanderbilt, and they've beat Missouri.
They have one win better than Texas Tech's wins, and Texas Tech has won every game by 24 points.
Right, just demolishing people.
Like, what are we doing here?
If Texas Tech played Florida State, they would beat them by 3 touchdowns.
If Texas Tech was called Alabama, they'd be number 1 in the nation right now.
Absolutely. Oregon dropped 5 spots to number 8. Oklahoma dropped 8 spots for 14. And then you've got 5 teams that are back in the poll or now in the poll for the first time in the case of Cincinnati. The Big 12 teams outside of Texas Tech, BYU jumps 3 spots up to number 15. Utah enters the poll at number 23. Cincinnati enters the poll at number 24. 1 spot ahead of Nebraska, who's number 25.
Yeah, I guess that one makes less sense, too,
Yeah.
because Cincinnati obviously has lost to Nebraska. But, again, like, you can kind of get a sense of, what, like, the committee wants to rank 4 Big 12 teams. Like, the committee wants to have Big 10 and SEC littered in the top 10. So I think that, like, we cannot undersell that as being a big reason why the numbers shake out the way that they do.
Mm-hmm. Throw a bunch of Big 12 teams in the lower teens to early 20s range and call it good.
Yeah, and I think ultimately the Big 12 is going to have a good chance to get 2 teams in. I do think that. Now, at the same time, we are starting to see, like, though Texas Tech makes this league top-heavy, there is a level of parity now. I mean, Kansas State, Iowa State, those are teams that were expected. TCU at one point, Bud Elliott and his metrics had TCU as a playoff team earlier in this year. All 3 of those teams, from a preseason standpoint, were pretty high, and all 3 of those teams now have 2 losses in the first 3 weeks of the Big 12 season.
Who's your Big 12 championship pick right now? If we were to revise our Big 12 predictions that we did this summer, who's playing in Arlington?
I would say Texas Tech are the winner of the game on Saturday between BYU and Utah.
Which I think will be Utah. My pick is Texas Tech and Utah. I think a rematch in Arlington.
And your pick before the season was Texas Tech over Kansas State, yes?
I had Texas Tech 1, I had Kansas State 2, and then 3 in our poll, I think was Arizona State followed by Utah. But Sam Leavitt hurt changes everything for the Sun Devils.
Renee on YouTube comments, Tech receivers need work. We could nitpick. The thing, Renee, that I'll say, and we said this earlier, and by the way, join us on YouTube, and you can comment there as part of Big 12 Studios to have your voice heard. Just search Big 12 Conference on YouTube and join us in the comment section. When a team tries to take away a certain aspect of Tech is able to exploit them in a different way. Those are the best teams in sports. When you're like, okay, what style do you want to play? You can say that going into a game, and then you go and beat them at that, whatever style it is. That's a testament to how good you are. Texas Tech didn't need the receivers to play big in this game because their defense and their running game was that good. I mean, if we look at the numbers again, it just gives you a pretty good indication of how wide the margins were in this game. And ultimately, again, like, we can nitpick certain things, but they do what they need to do to win each one of these games.
Texas Tech receivers did have some drops. Reggie Virgil was targeted 6 times, only had 2 grabs. Terrence Carter only caught 38% of his targets. Caleb Douglas was efficient, but he couldn't stretch the field defensively. But Texas Tech on the ground, man, to your point, they find ways to win, and not just win, but to absolutely dominate. All right, coming up next here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, also streaming live on YouTube and wherever you get your Big 12 Conference video feed at Big 12 Studios. He's Ari, I'm James. We'll hear from some of the Big 12 coaches after this. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Here on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, and you're watching us via the Big 12 Studios Fast Channel. We are live on the air and streaming across Big 12 Fast Channel. Big 12 Studios, if it's the Big 12, it's right here. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We've got Taman Turner on the board, our producer and engineer, and let's highlight a little bit of the BYU-Arizona game, because Bear Bachmeier had maybe his worst game of the season as a passer. On paper, completed 12 of 29 passes. He was very effective on the ground, and he made some veteran plays in this game. Here's what BYU coach Kalani Sitake said overall about his young quarterback, freshman Bear Bachmeier's performance.
Yeah, he's a tough kid. These are great lessons for him to learn and great memories for all of us to make. We're bowl eligible, so now we got to see how sweet of a destination it will be, and that's what we got going on to the next week. And nothing's easy. I mean, this is hard to come into this place and then play against a motivated Arizona team, play against a ranked team, and I give them a lot of credit for what they showed, and so you can't take anything away from them. We can just say we just keep finding a way to win. I'm okay with that, finding a way to win, but let's make it easier on ourselves.
Did Arizona lose this game, or did BYU take it from them? Did BYU win this game?
BYU is a complimentary football team, so BYU won it. And, I think the best indication of this is the fumble that Bear Bachmeier suffered at the 4-yard line, and the ball was picked up by an offensive lineman, Safarchik. And that's a game-changing play by BYU, and that's just how they play. Like, they are complementary of each other. They've got really good special teams. Farron, who had a 25-kick streak, had 25 consecutive kicks, missed one last week, and then missed one this week, but rebounded and still hit 2 of 3, and the 2 that he hit were absolutely clutch. First to as BYU was down 10 in the fourth quarter, so that one got them to within a score, and then the second one sent the game to double overtime. So, special teams, defense, offense, they just play complementary football. I think like Utah, and that's what's going to really make this game on Saturday really interesting, is Utah and BYU are both ground and pound football teams. They're at their best, especially with their quarterback, when they're able to run. And so, which team can win while consistently being forced to pass? I'd say BYU probably has the better weapons down the field, but we don't know about Bear Bachmeier as a passer because, he's a true freshman that was playing high school football a year ago. But, I put this more on what BYU did as opposed to what Arizona didn't do. Arizona made mistakes in this game, but it was BYU's rush offense that absolutely dominated against the Arizona defense that had been really good.
BYU had over 400 yards of offense again in this football game, and the BYU wide receivers are the real deal. With Chase Roberts, they've got elite tight ends, and wide receiver Parker Kingston, who was one of the best special teams punt returners in the conference last year and once again this year. He ripped off a 75-yard touchdown where he wanted to remind everyone that he was a state champion in the 100-meter sprints when he was in high school. Here's clip 11. Taman, what Parker Kingston said about BYU's composure in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, it just shows our resilience, our toughness. We were down 10 with 10 minutes left, and we weren't worried. We knew that we had a chance no matter what, and if the ball and plays were made, that we would win this game.
Down 10 with 10 minutes to go, and they find a way to win the football game.
Yeah, this was a game of runs. BYU was up 14-0. Then there was 24 unanswered to make it 24-14, and BYU closes with 19 unanswered. So, and to score the 10 in the fourth quarter to send the game to overtime, they're never out of a game. And again, it's all the components are coming together for BYU. BYU is 17-2 since the start of the 2024 season. Okay, this is not a fluke. This is a team that as a team is 17-2, right? They don't have this elite quarterback that for the last 2 seasons has dragged them to 17 out of 19 wins. This is an elite defense. They have, really good ground attack. It is the essence of a complementary football team. And I think Bear does a lot of different things that help this team win, but he's got that inexperience factor, and that could come back to bite them at some point. And I say bite them, like, I don't know what reasonable expectations are for a true freshman that was playing high school football a year ago. Like, what are reasonable expectations? We should not be reasonably expecting BYU to be competing for a Big 12 championship with a signal caller who was playing high school football a year ago. But here they are.
And Bear Bachmeier, post-game, said this about the biggest lesson he learned as a freshman quarterback following the win.
Yeah, you just got to keep your composure. There's highs and lows, but if you stay level-headed, kind of, there's going to be highs and lows, but you just got to bounce back.
That's Bear Bachmeier, the BYU quarterback. I think for the first time we saw him at times look like a freshman. But in the second half, when the game mattered the most, he was nails. And L.J. Martin, the big, strong, downhill runner at tailback. There was a stretch in the fourth quarter and in the overtime. From the 2:46 mark of the fourth quarter, L.J. Martin's rushing attempts went for 6 yards up the middle. Gave him a first down. 3rd and 1, he rips off a 13-yard gain that gave him a first down with 1:12 to go. Kept that drive alive. Then in the overtime, he gets a 2nd and 4 first down, 6 yards. Like, L.J. Martin wears teams down. He is so strong. He had 162 yards in this game for BYU. They've got a real two-headed monster between him and Bachmeier as runners within that offense.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is where, like, when you look at, again, from a complimentary football team, BYU, like, winning up front. I mean, L.J. Martin went off for, I think, 7 yards a carry in this game on 25 carries. I mean, that's a big part of that was L.J. Martin's physical running style. A big part of that's the offensive line, defensive line too. I mean, when you think about the possessions that Arizona had in this game, second half, punt on a 3-play, -1 yard drive. Then they got an interception and scored a touchdown to start the fourth quarter. And then another 3-play drive after a field goal by BYU. So, I mean, it was basically Bear Bachmeier that put Arizona in position to win the game. It was also Bear Bachmeier that put BYU in position to win the game. That's where I say, like, I don't think Arizona choked this one away as much as BYU took it. Mm-hmm. BYU was really, in many ways, dominating this football game. It was just the 2 interceptions, the second one especially, that really were costing BYU, and they were able to overcome that. They were probably not going to be able to overcome the fumble that Bachmeier had, but fortunate for BYU that they were able to fall on it.
And there was some controversy. And in college football, the rules are different than they are in the NFL. In the NFL, the ball is dead, and you cannot advance a fumble. In college, on 1st, 2nd, or 3rd down, any offensive player may recover and advance a fumble. There's no restriction. If a teammate recovers a loose ball, they can pick it up and run with it. There's only a restriction on a 4th down play, and that wasn't a 4th down play, correct?
No.
On a 4th down play, if a teammate recovers a fumble on 4th down, the ball is declared dead at the spot of the fumble or the spot of the recovery if it's behind where the fumble occurred. So there was some confusion there, that crazy finish with BYU and Arizona, because it wasn't on a 4th down. That rule is, I mean, that's a live ball that can be advanced. Colorado played their best game of the season. They got a 24-17 win over Iowa State. Deion Sanders underwent a procedure midweek, bounced right back, was at practice the next day, coached in this football game. His quarterback, Caden Salter, was fantastic. 16 of 25 passing, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns. By far his best effort of the season. What was your big takeaway from that one?
Well, I mean, aside from how well Salter played and how incredible it was for Deion to have his team ready to play and win a game like this, given what they've been through this year and obviously given what Deion's been through this year, was absolutely incredible. I mean, it's hard not to watch the totality of this game and not go back to the picked up pass interference flag on an interception, in the Iowa State red zone. Iowa State's in the red zone. They're driving, looking to score, and it was a 21-17 game. So while Iowa State had multiple chances, I think 2 possessions following that they still could have gone into the end zone to go ahead. They didn't, but you could trace back a huge chunk of this game to the picked up flag there and that, in the third quarter. So it's 21-17. Iowa State's going in to score, and Rocco Becht throws an interception on a pass where Bramer is basically tackled before the pass gets there. The flag is thrown, but then picked up by the officials. Matt Campbell and his staff were absolutely livid and remained that way basically the remainder of the game. And I think sometimes as a coach, it's on you to make sure that your team doesn't feed off of your composure in a negative light. Like, you want your team to feed off of the energy you bring as a coach when it's positive. In this case, though, it was negative, and I think, like, Iowa State had 2 drives following that, and neither really had much of a shot. So, like, you can go back and be like, yeah, it was a blown call, but they still had multiple opportunities to overcome that and didn't, and that's certainly an argument to be made. Like, they lost this game because of how they played throughout the course of it, but it's hard not to look at that one play and say, oh, man, like, if that had been called the right way, it's not an interception. Does Rocco Becht lead them into the end zone and score there? It was a huge part of the game. And I think officiating was a huge storyline this weekend in the Big 12.
And that was the only turnover in the ballgame. Colorado played clean football. They didn't turn it over once. They were the lesser penalized team. Who would have thought that? Iowa State had 7 penalties. Colorado had 6. Almost a 20-yard difference there.
And by the way, Abu Sama, 24 for 177 and 2 touchdowns. As we talk about, breakout performances from Cameron Dickey and L.J. Martin and Joe Jackson, all in winning efforts for their teams, Abu Sama had an incredible performance. And I think we've seen from him a little bit of this, but never the volume of 24 carries.
Right.
I mean, it was a career high in terms of carries. It was a career high in terms of yardage. Sama looks to be the real deal, even in a losing effort here for Iowa State. And go back, they were held short on one 4th down play. A 4th and 1, they go inside run, and Colorado blows it up in the middle. Amari McNeil made a great play on it.
Prime was the big story this week, and just his resilience, and his team played like a team that loves their coach. Now, here's what Deion Sanders said about his quarterback, Caden Salter, who had a banner afternoon against Iowa State.
We challenged everybody, not just Caden. He stood up and stood out. He did his thing. I mean, I don't think it was a play in the game bigger than that 3rd down throw. And the standing there, first of all, we gave him a clean pocket. The line, hats off to the darn line. They're blocking their butts off, run as well as pass. And he stood in there and he delivered a great ball. Joseph went up and got that thing. I mean, it was a great execution of what we practice. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him. I truly am.
Also want to hear what a Colorado player said about Deion recovering from his surgery and how the team kind of leaned into that. This is Colorado offensive lineman Zylan Chrysler.
He motivated the team tremendously. I mean, going into surgery and the next morning, you at practice is crazy. But, man, Coach Prime, warrior. He going to do what he got to do. And I salute Coach Prime. I'm glad I came.
The players leaned into it, and the Colorado offensive line deserves a ton of credit. There was a touchdown run in this game where Micah Welsh, on a stretch play, is trying to get the corner. Jordan Seaton is pulling on the play, and he is running stride for stride at 6'9", 310 pounds with his running back. I mean, that play alone showed why he's a top 5 future NFL draft pick.
Yeah, and Colorado has a lot of NFL talent. And I think in a day where they don't make mistakes, turning the ball over with bad penalties, they're hard to beat. They just haven't had enough of those games so far this year where they don't shoot themselves in the foot. And, again, you mentioned it, Rocco Becht with the 1 turnover in this game, the interception, which probably should have been flagged for pass interference. But, on the whole, Iowa State doesn't have the 4- and 5-star talent that Colorado has. They've been able to turn 3-star guys into 5-star guys that they can drafted. But when Colorado doesn't make mistakes, they don't have the penalties, they don't have the turnovers. That's where, they win these games.
Huge win for the Buffaloes. 24-17 over Iowa State. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. And coming up next, we've got our Big 12 Today weekly awards. Player, coach, jersey of the week, and atmosphere around the corner. This is Big 12 Today, exclusively on TuneIn and via Big 12 Studios.
And he flew over the football. Freeler
12 today on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn. We are on the radio, we are on your screen, and we are always in the game here for the Big 12 Conference. That is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Taman on the controls. And it is time for our Big 12 Today weekly awards. We go through a Player of the Week. We do a Coach of the Week. We do a Jersey of the Week, which is my favorite part. And an Atmosphere of the Week via Big 12 Today. All right, let's start with Big 12 Player of the Week. These are our awards before the official conference release, which will be later today and we'll touch on tomorrow. Who's your Big 12 Player of the Week?
This one for me is Desmond Purnell, the linebacker for Kansas State, who had an unbelievable performance. 5 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. And that is a stat sheet stuffer for a Kansas State team that sorely needed a win like this. And, I mean, I thought this game was won when TCU's K-State's up 14-7, and Josh Hoover throws a backwards pass. Ed Small makes an attempt on it, thinks it's a pass. Instead, it's a lateral. K-State picks it up, and Wesley Fair takes it into the end zone for a defensive touchdown. And then the next possession, Desmond Purnell has a pick 6. So they scored 14 points in the middle of this game where TCU's offense was struggling, and that's where Kansas State broke away. They kind of leaned on Joe Jackson in the second half, but this game was put away by Desmond Purnell in the second half with his pick 6.
Love that you went defensive side of the football. And Purnell is a guy that he got Kansas State, was like a 2-star, maybe a 3 recruit out of high school, played special teams. He blocked a punt early in his career 3 years ago, and he's just kind of had this gradual trajectory to becoming the player that he is now. I'll go offensive side of the football then. I'm going with Texas Tech running back Cameron Dickey. It had to be one of us. He rushes for 263 yards against Kansas, which now makes him the second leading rusher in the Big 12. 6.5 yards per carry. That's tops among all Big 12 running backs, tied with L.J. Martin at BYU. He leads Big 12 running backs with 8 touchdowns. And he's supposed to be the Thunderback. It's like 5'10", 220 pounds. Jacoby Williams is more the lightning back. Dickey has some serious fast twitch ability. He is shifty. He had a 71-yarder, a 55-yarder, the rushing touchdowns against Kansas. He was phenomenal for Texas Tech, who as a team rushed for their most yards since 1997. All right, your Big 12 Coach of the Week in the conference.
Well, how could you look beyond Deion Sanders, leading Colorado to a win, their first win of the Big 12 season, and doing it against an elite Big 12 team that had been undefeated before losing now 2 straight in Iowa State, and a team that went to the Big 12 championship last year. So Deion does this in a week where he has to have surgery because of continued blood clots in his legs. This is a dude that had surgery in the offseason to remove his bladder. He now had surgery in season for blood clots in his legs. I can't even imagine the pain that he's dealing with. But to have his team ready to play despite having surgery this week, and not only ready to play but to win a football game, to have Caden Salter playing at the level that he played at, I don't know how you can look at anybody beyond Coach Prime as the Coach of the Week this week.
Love it. Coach Prime, Coach of the Week. My Coach of the Week is Chris Kleiman at Kansas State. Kansas State was reeling, and it looked like the bottom was going to drop out on the program. With Dylan Edwards, who played a little bit against Baylor, was out for this game. Kansas State couldn't lean on him, so they went with Joe Jackson, a career-high 27 attempts for 110 yards. But the way the Kansas State defense locked down that explosive TCU offense with the pick 6, the scoop and score, and I think that win kind of re-centers K-State's season in a lot of ways. They've had so many games and close losses, and this one wasn't. K-State really, in decisive fashion, took care of TCU with a 41-28 win. Moving on to our Big 12 Jersey of the week.
Love how we saved Jersey and Atmosphere for last, with player and coach being the first two.
It's like player, coach, Jersey and Atmosphere.
My Jersey of the week is Colorado. I did not go with Texas Tech. and I'm glad you did because Texas Tech had some cool throwbacks. I actually liked Colorado's quote-unquote throwbacks. So Colorado has these two black jerseys that we've seen. They've got multiple versions, but the two main ones would be the ones that are more old school that have the stripes on the side versus the ones that have the kind of the mountain range. They're more new age. I liked the old school ones they wore on Saturday, which were more old school, again, like the stripe on the side as opposed to like the mountain range that they have on the side, on the shoulder. So I like Colorado's throwbacks, quote-unquote, this week. They're my jersey of the week.
So we've had Kansas, Arizona State the last couple of weeks. Love the Colorado pick. Those were clean. I'm going with Texas Tech and their throwbacks.
Those are cool.
Initially, when they came out, I didn't think I'd love the checkerboard pattern down the pant leg, but it looked really, really clean on television.
That's the reason they were not my jersey of the week. The checkerboard.
Can't get past the checkerboard stripe.
I don't know what is the obsession that they had in like the 40s and 50s with checkerboard pants, but it seems like when you go to like the way old throwbacks, you get the checkerboard pants. It was clearly a thing back in the day that I'm just not on board with.
Checkers was huge. Checkers was lit, and everybody had to have it on their uniforms.
I just thought like it looks a little bit like they're knights. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Like even Joey Maguire, like his shirt that he was wearing that had the double T and then the lines coming up underneath it. Like to me, just they look like knights a little bit.
Yeah, I get it. I love the simplicity of the jersey, the top. You've got the big white numbers, easy to read, says Tech across the chest. I love whatever that kind of throwback logo is that they had on the shoulder sleeve with some vertical stripes and the new Texas Tech throwback logo that they've unveiled kind of built in. Thought it looked really good on television. I liked what KU wore too, again.
Yeah, agreed.
KU is crushing it.
The Warhawk helmet is pretty sick.
And this was a new Warhawk helmet.
Normally
right?
we see the black Warhawk helmet, but on Saturday we saw the blue Warhawk helmet.
It looked good.
Yeah, looked clean. I agree.
If they'd played better. Shot there. All right. Man, we had some tremendous atmospheres once again in the Big 12. All these stadiums were high energy across the board, but what is your Big 12 atmosphere of the week?
Let's throw some love to the Oklahoma State Cowboys fan base.
Okay.
Because they had easily the biggest story from a fan's perspective this weekend. You know, in their 11th straight Big 12 loss, Oklahoma State saw what's now being told as a 40-year-old man who was his sister apparently placed a wager on this, said, if you go over there and wave your shirt around in that section that's empty, I'll give you $10. That's what he did. He went to section 231, took off his shirt, started waving it around, and then another guy asked, can I join you? And he said yes. And then the two-sum doubled to 4. And then the 4 it just kept doubling to the point where it was a section full of shirtless men waving their shirts around during a blowout for Houston. So credit to the Oklahoma State fans for not giving up, for continuing to fight and to be there. They showed more fight than the Oklahoma State team, and it was fun to watch. And again, it was one guy, turned into 2, which turned into 4, which turned into 8, which turned into 16, and suddenly 231, which was empty an hour before, is now locked and loaded and jumping and bouncing and waving their shirts around the air. It was a lot of fun to watch.
I mean, and Oklahoma State, like the university, has really leaned into it. I love that. They're not shying away from it. And I think they've
lost 11 straight Big 12 games.
Right. Like, it's one little tiny thing that makes that job a little bit more attractive. Like, you've got some crazy, passionate fans that will sit through a blowout loss to a team that was bottom of the Big 12 a season ago, and they'll do it in a fun, creative way.
They need to figure out a way to get the P.D. Pablo song to match up with Oklahoma State, you know? Oklahoma State, it's just
I think he says North Carolina.
Yeah, you got to figure out a way to make it work. I don't know how you do it.
Stillwater.
Twist it around your head like a helicopter.
Eskimo Joe's.
We'll have to work on it. Maybe
the strip.
Maybe throw it into ChatGPT and see if ChatGPT can give us like an Oklahoma State version of it. But that's what they were doing.
I'll have that by the end of the show. No worries.
They were tossing their shirts around like a helicopter.
So jobs that are already open in college football. By the way, my atmosphere.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you give us your atmosphere of the week?
I totally forgot. Who did I say? Oh, Folsom Field, Boulder, Colorado.
Clearly, I'm the winner in this category.
Yeah, Oklahoma State was next level. I thought Utah was really good, but I didn't know how Colorado would show out after 3 Big 12 losses to open conference play. And
You saying their fans are fickle and you didn't think they'd show up?
well, there's a lot of fickle fans at various places. Even the Kansas State game had a great crowd, and I wasn't so sure it would be that way. But, man, Boulder was rowdy. It was loud. It felt like a night game at Folsom Field, even though it was middle of the afternoon. I was just really impressed. And one more kind of note on that game. Do you think that the fact that Iowa State has lost their top 2 members of their secondary, has that caught up to them? I mean, Jeremiah Cooper, Jontez Williams out. Sorsby and Cincinnati throws all over them. And then Colorado's best game of the year for Caden Salter at quarterback. And I think Iowa State is really missing those guys.
Yeah.
Last year they survived some injuries, but this year not so much.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a reason that those guys are preseason all Big 12 type players. And Iowa State had great depth at the linebacker position last year, and guys emerged due to injuries. But yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that Brendan Sorsby was able to do to Cincinnati or to Iowa State what he did, and then the next week Caden Salter has his best game passing by far in a Colorado uniform. So yeah, I think their defense is reeling. They lost Dom Orange early in this game. I can't remember if he ended up coming back, but in college football, your depth is tested. As much as your frontline players matter, and they do, you're going to have guys behind them that can step in and perform, and Iowa State had that last year. It's a reason that despite 2 losses, they played for the Big 12 championship and had a really good year, double-digit wins, their most wins ever in program history. And they were able to overcome injuries, but this year, not so much.
Do we have time for an announcer of the week? And I bring that up.
Wow.
Well,
New category here.
New category. It's totally –
Should we call it the James Westling Award?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It's kind of like the James Beard, except not.
You read my mind. I really just wanted to ask how you feel about – because he was on the call for Texas Tech KU. RG3 as an announcer. He was the analyst for Kansas and Texas Tech. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah. RG3 did call that game. He did.
And
I mean, I'm not going to pretend like what you and your analysts do on TV is an easy job. It's not. I think there are times where RG3 is really good. I think there are times where he's really corny. I think there are times where he's really bad. So I think he lives within those 3 worlds. There's times where he's great. And then there's times where he's super corny. And then there's times where it's that was not good at all.
Cringe, I think the kids say.
And not
Very
even
cringe.
and that's goes beyond corny, right? Sometimes he says things that could be construed as corny and they're cringe. Sometimes he just says things that you don't need to say. I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. I'll say this: I really liked the pairing last year of why am I forgetting his play-by-play guy, who's the former White Sox play-by-play announcer. But he used to work with Brock Heward, and I thought they were a great pairing. I think RG3 is good on the whole. Ultimately, I enjoy watching games he calls, but he's just got a lot of misses, I think.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Devin Gardner as an analyst. He works with Tim Mando, and that is a guy that
Players, not plays.
I love his energy, and he seems genuinely excited to be wherever he is calling a game. And I think that's the difference for me. RG3's corny and maybe tries a little bit too hard to be funny at times. I get that. I think he's very knowledgeable.
Oh, yeah.
But there's an energy where it's almost like we are privileged watching him on television versus Devin Gardner, who is so humble and down to earth. You could just tell he genuinely
That's
cares.
Fair. Yeah, I think that's a great comparison there. Where it's with RG3, he's you're lucky to be watching me, and Devin Gardner's I'm lucky to be watching this game.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Great point.
All right, we move into hour number 3 coming up next here on Big 12 Radio via TuneIn. We've got Taylor McCarg, our Monday morning quarterback, to break down all the quarterback performances over a weekend that was really, in our eyes, all about the running backs in the Big 12. But Big 12 headlines, rapid fire, is around the corner. He's Ariam James. You're watching us via Big 12 Studios.
On first down, Retzlaff flushed down.
exclusively on TuneIn, and you're watching us via Big 12 Studios, Big12Studios.com, the Big 12 Fast channel. You can catch us live each and every Monday through Friday, 8 a to 11 a Eastern Time on YouTube or via your Roku device, Amazon Prime TV, DirecTV, and many, many other platforms. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. We are about 15 minutes away from chatting with Taylor McHargue, who you can catch also on Big 12 Studios. He's an analyst for CBS and ESPN, a former quarterback. It's our Monday morning quarterback segment in which we break down all of the big performances from over the weekend at that position. But some rapid-fire Big 12 headlines. Ari, happy National KenPom Day. KenPom has his preseason ratings out, as does our good buddy Evan Miyakawa at evanmiya.com. And the preseason number one team in both metrics, the Houston Cougars. Big 12 Media Days are next week for the men's and women's basketball teams. Houston, last year's national runner-up, number one in KenPom's way too early preseason top 50.
Well, I mean, any surprise there? Does that surprise you that they're number one in both?
No, I don't think it does. Based off of the fact that Florida lost, I think, all but one starter. Houston has guys coming back. Emmanuel Sharp is back. Milos Uzan is back. They add a top 5 recruiting class to Kelvin Sampson's bunch. They have guys that were kind of the 6th or 7th guy in rotation last year that his players just get better year after year.
KenPom also ranked his top 25 active head coaches. Kelvin Sampson was number 1. Grant McCasland was number 2. What's perhaps most surprising is Bill Self was 20 on this list. But KenPom's top 25 active head coaches, Kelvin Sampson 1, Grant McCasland 2. He's got Randy Bennett 3, Pat Kelsey 4, Rick Pitino 5, Dan Hurley 6, Kyle Smith 7, Mark Few 8, Chris Beard 9, Steve Forbes at 10.
Steve Forbes, the Wake Forest coach, at 10.
He's got Bill Self at 20.
And I'm sure there's some...
T.J. Otzelberger's at 24.
That feels too low.
Yeah. Also, where's the BYU head coach?
I was going to say, is Kevin Young...
Kevin Young's not on this list?
Not on the top 25?
Nope.
Randy Bennett, you said?
Randy Bennett is 3rd.
I would love to know what the advanced metrics are that goes into that. Like the preseason top 50 at Evan.
Better question. Who's Randy Bennett?
Is he the head coach at St. Mary's?
I do not know.
This is not Tony Bennett.
Correct.
This is Randy Bennett.
Randy. Yeah, St. Mary's coach. Good call.
Do what I do.
Guess you do watch sports occasionally.
Huge Gales fan.
Did not know.
Do you know what a St. Mary Gale is?
We did this.
We did.
Yeah. No.
You don't remember.
I don't.
It's not a bird.
Yep.
That's it. That's the end of the tweet.
I do not remember.
Not a bird.
Do you remember what a gale is?
No, I would shout it from the mountaintops if I knew.
Yeah.
It's not a bird, which is what their logo is. All right, so the preseason top 50, it's preseason. What goes into these ratings? Well, essentially it's a sophisticated player evaluation model for each and every player on each team. And then based off of the aggregate, the law of averages, what a player's rating should be based off of the natural trajectory of experience and the growth of their career, factored in with how they rate incoming freshmen. So essentially these top 50 lists are who has the most roster talent is the way I look at it. And they've got Houston number 1. Some teams that Evan Miya's higher on from the Big 12. He's got Arizona several spots higher than KenPom and BYU. He has BYU number 9. KenPom has BYU number 18. Evan Miya has Arizona number 7. KenPom has them number 15.
It's going to be a great college basketball season. We're excited to be out in Kansas City here in a couple of weeks to bring you everything from both men's and women's basketball media days. But, I mean, 2 teams that are elite in the Big 12, Houston and Texas Tech. That says nothing about two teams in Kansas and BYU that have the presumptive top 2 picks of the upcoming NBA draft. And that just scratches the surface on how good the Big 12 is. Iowa State is really good. I expect Oklahoma State to take a huge step forward this year. So that's just highlighting just a few. Arizona, I mean, that's a team that we thought could be a Final Four team that's going to be really good and reloaded this year. So Big 12 is as good as it's been, and it's one of the best leagues, if not the best league, every year in college basketball.
Where do you think Kansas is, or where should they be?
I mean, I think so. One of the I think the preseason AP poll had them like 24th. I'm surprised that Ken Palm and Evan Miyakawa have them that low. I would have thought that Advanced Metrics might have liked them a little bit better. But they have a lot of high-end, top-level talent. I think what people wonder about and are curious about is their depth. Mm-hmm. Like, Peterson's good. Flory Bidunga's good. Beyond that, though, where else is the score going to come from? I think Kansas is probably better than what the analytics and the AP think they are. I guess I'm just happy to see that they're not preseason number 1, which they've been in 2 of the last 3 years. They've had really dreadful years in 2 of the last 3 years. Maybe, no, it's 2 straight years where they were preseason number 1, right?
Is the AP preseason poll out?
I thought it was.
Kansas, by the way, is number 18 by Evan Miyakawa. Ken Palm has Kansas number 21.
And I believe if I saw that right, the preseason AP poll, which if it is out, I thought I saw them at 24.
It's going to be a fun year.
It's going to be a great year.
Cannot wait for some basketball. We will be at Big 12 Media Days next week up at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. All right, let's pivot back to some football talk. Big noon kickoff is headed to the Holy War, BYU and Utah. That is the marquee game in the Big 12. It'll be at 7 o'clock Central. So 8 o'clock Eastern time on Fox this Saturday. The Big 12 matchups, you've got Arizona at Houston. That's the noon kick Eastern. Also at noon Eastern on ESPN2, Baylor at TCU. The TNT game this week is West Virginia at UCF. That's at 1 Eastern, noon Central. Your afternoon standalone game on Fox is Texas Tech at Arizona State. And then the night games, Utah at BYU and Cincinnati at Oklahoma State. That game will kick at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2.
So I love that Utah, BYU, the Holy War is not in the big noon kickoff window. So the big noon show, I'm trying to remember what the distinctions are here, but the pregame show will be on site in Provo.
Correct.
The game will not kick off until 7 Central, 8 Eastern.
Yeah.
6 Mountain.
6 Mountain.
So thankfully, this game will not kick at 10 Mountain time, which is what it would have been had this been featured as the big noon kickoff game. So love that this is a later game. Not exactly sure that, you talk about fans being properly lubed up for evening games. In the case of Provo, probably not. Maybe the Utah fans bring the noise. But this is, in many ways, exactly what the Big 12 and Utah and BYU pictured when BYU joined this league and then Utah followed as a cast-off from the Pac-12. This is best-case scenario for these rivals. You've got a 6-0 BYU team, a 5-1 Utah team. The only loss for Utah is to Texas Tech, who's the best team in the country, or one of the best teams in the country. So, this is as good as it gets. These are 2 elite rushing football teams, 2 elite defenses, really good up front on both lines of scrimmage, both ranked. This is exactly best-case scenario for these 2 teams when they joined together in the Big 12 and this rivalry was reinvigorated.
This is only the second time they've played since 2021. Remember the rivalry, the streak ended in 2019. They didn't play in 20, and then they picked it up again in 21 after COVID, and then they didn't play for 3 years. Last year, 22-21, BYU won that game when BYU was ranked at 9th in the country. This is probably, in terms of both teams being ranked, maybe BYU was ranked in 2018. Utah was ranked 18th and won the matchup. I'm trying to think when the Zach Wilson era run was in the rivalry.
2020-ish. COVID, BYU had a big year. So, yeah, I think this is unquestionably the biggest game in the history of this rivalry. And that's because they're now both playing in a premier conference. Utah has been the team and program in a premier conference. BYU is not. So even in previous years when BYU was undefeated,
right,
you could poo-poo their schedule and say, well, they haven't played anybody. Well, they're playing a Big 12 schedule now. They're undefeated to go up against the Utah team with one loss. Yeah, this is easily the biggest game in the history of the rivalry.
This is the biggest game in the league this weekend, not just because of the rivalry, but also in terms of the Big 12 race and the standings and who's at the top. And Utah opens as a 3.5-point favorite on the road at BYU, according to ESPN Bet. But this is a massive game. If Utah wins this game, all of a sudden they're going to be the team that's tied for second in the Big 12 standings. Now, that depends on what Cincinnati does. They could be tied for third, I should say.
Well, Cincinnati plays Oklahoma State, so win.
21.5 is the line on that game, by the way.
The other one is Texas Tech at Arizona State, and this could be a much more competitive game depending on the status of Sam Leavitt. But with that being said, if Arizona State's defense plays like it did against Utah, it doesn't really matter who's at quarterback. And I think that's the big takeaway, again, from Arizona State's loss was, yeah, certainly Sims didn't help the case. Like, they needed more offense, but they just could not get stops on Utah. And Utah is a fairly easy team to prepare for because you know they're going to run, and then they're going to use play action off of that. And Arizona State did absolutely nothing to stop it. Arizona State has been really good in their defensive line and was not. So, again, depending on the status of Sam Leavitt, we'll see what that looks like for the game between Texas Tech and Arizona State on Saturday afternoon. But Arizona State's defense has to play a lot better than it did against Utah because Texas Tech has a much better offense than Utah does.
Texas opens as a 10.5-point favorite in Tempe at Arizona State.
And it could be Jeff Sims versus
Will Hammond.
Will Hammond.
Or Howard.
No, it cannot be Will Howard. I have to really now stop myself, really think through it, make sure I'm not saying Will Howard.
Hammond.
I mean, yeah.
It's like ham.
No, I get the
It's an
difference.
H.
You don't have to explain.
Hammond.
I get it's a pretty obvious difference. It's just very similar in the names.
Yeah, and they play a similar style.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
Downhill runners. They'll truck stick a guy. Not the most accurate of passers.
Hammond looked a lot worse against Kansas than he did against Utah. So, I mean, I was out here clamoring for Hammond following the Utah loss or Utah win. And then, a few weeks later, Baron Morton makes me look silly.
Clamoring for Hammond. Love you some Will Hammond.
Or Will Howard.
Or him.
And I'll say this. The Baylor-TCU game feels like an elimination game. TCU may already be eliminated, but Baylor could very much be eliminated. Baylor only has one conference loss so far, and they were off this week. So that one in Fort Worth is always a good rivalry game. It's the butt game. BU. Oh,
it'd be Butch.
Yes, I'm confusing that with Baylor, Texas Tech. Apologies. But it's
the Blue Bonnet game.
Yeah, it's
we're talking flowers.
Thank you. TCU used to be in Texas Christian, used to be in the Waco area, and then they moved it to Fort Worth. So there used to be this regional part of the rivalry game. It's the Blue Bonnet Bowl, which is we need a better name for it, but yeah, that's also a big one in the conference. I think Week 8 slate is better than Week 7, but it's not top to bottom a great week.
TCU's favored by 2.5 in that one. Houston hosts Arizona.
That's also an underrated game.
Yes.
Week 8 is a pretty underrated slate. But that also feels like an elimination game, too. Even though Arizona has 2 losses, it feels like they're already eliminated. Houston could pretty much eliminate Arizona.
If Houston wins this game, they will be 6-1 and 3-1 in year 2 under Willie Fritz.
Well, and by the way, Houston now with 5 wins, this is the most wins they've had as a member of the Big 12 Conference.
Oh, yeah.
6 games into the season, they have 5 wins already.
They're 1 win away from becoming bowl eligible. And their game after that is at Arizona State, and then home against West Virginia, and then at UCF. The Sam Leavitt injury continues to be magnified.
Yep.
Because without Sam Leavitt, can Houston go in at Arizona State? Wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't. And then all of a sudden, Houston's got a chance to rattle off some serious some serious wins and
Yeah, if
potentially
Houston-
be 8-1.
If Houston survives this week at home against Arizona, there's a pretty good chance they're going to be playing for a Big 12 championship.
Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
Houston.
I mean, you just said it. They've got Arizona, Arizona State, West Virginia, and UCF left.
And then they wrap up with TCU at home and then at Baylor. But 10-2 is not out of the question.
No, it's not.
For Houston.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Some big games in the Big 12 this weekend. All right, coming up next, we sit down with our Monday morning quarterback, Taylor McHargue. He joins us, former signal caller, gunslinger. He was running some option back in the day as well. Taylor, the ESPN CBS Big 12 analyst. Coming up next, that's I'm James. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios.
Edwards pulls off
days.
You gonna fight him?
Why would I fight Jerome Tang?
I don't know. I just was wondering if you're going to fight him this weekend. That moth apparently wants to fight you. Can I just say something real quick? So
there's a moth in the studio. It's very distracting.
Moths like lights.
Slapping around my head. It's not come anywhere near you. Like, where did that thing come from?
Well, I think the moth wants you to fight him. So my wife, Margot, is a fantastic cook. She makes a lot of different stuff. She bakes, she cooks, she does a lot. And so from time to time, I'll bring you some stuff that I want you to try. And so I brought you what is essentially a breakfast cookie.
Yes.
That's what she's described it as. And I told you before the show I wanted you and Taman to try the breakfast cookie so that we could then talk about on air how good or bad the cookie is.
We're going to do that.
So we are now 2.5 hours into the show. You still have the breakfast cookies off to the side here.
Yes.
Taman is
foaming at the mouth.
Very capable of eating the cookie himself. He has completely not done that.
I'm very hungry.
So
by the way.
that's what I'm going to let you know what's in these, by the way. Oat flour, flax, hemp hearts, date syrup, peanut butter, egg, chocolate chips, banana, and baking soda.
Sounds like Christmas
I know,
morning.
you are all about eating healthy. Couldn't have found a healthier breakfast cookie. Calling it a cookie is a stretch, by the way, because it's super healthy.
It's shaped like a cookie.
But I cannot believe how long it's taken you to eat this cookie. I'm devastated. My wife is more devastated.
Now I know why he's been scowling at me for 2.5 hours.
Well, that's just that's one of the reasons.
I'm going to eat it live on the air in 15 minutes. It's part of the final whistle. Already brought cookies. It's right there on the rundown.
Eating it on the air.
Yes, you're gonna have to man the ship for a moment. I'm gonna give a deep dive, full review. I'm very excited about the breakfast cookie.
Because you've hurt my feelings.
You don't have feelings.
It's true.
We're going to eat the cookie. We're waiting on Taylor McCarg, the Monday morning Big 12 quarterback.
Why don't we evaluate the quarterbacks in the stead of Taylor McCarg?
So who is the best quarterback this weekend in the Big 12? There were only two 300-yard passers, and they were Josh Hoover in a losing effort for TCU, 376 yards and 3 touchdowns. Connor Wegman threw for 306, a new season high, 2 touchdowns, and was 21 of 30 for Houston and their win over Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I think there's 3 options here. They would be Connor Wegman, Caden Salter, and Devin Dampier. Those are the 3 options for the best quarterback of the weekend. I would say Devin Dampier just simply from the fact that Utah's 5-1, and we really haven't talked about Dampier as being a elite level passer yet. Salter hasn't looked like that all year and did against an Iowa State defense that, if we're being honest, is compromised in the back end. Wegman is coming off a game where he played poorly and got hurt and missed the remainder of the game. Was it 2 weeks that he was out? Did he miss a start too?
Wegman?
Yeah.
No, he didn't. He missed.
Get knocked out of a game?
Yeah, he got knocked out of their last game, and Zion Chris came in.
That's right.
And played the rest of the way, but that was against Texas Tech.
Right.
They weren't beating Texas Tech with or without Wegman.
So, I'd probably go with Devin Dampier, who had the best weekend from a quarterback perspective, but I think Wegman's right behind him. And then let's, again, not totally disregard Cade Salter, who needed a performance like this.
Devin Dampier leads the Big 12 in completion percentage at 71.5%. And I think that we have that Texas game, again, just burnt into our brains when it comes to Utah. Devin Dampier was not 100% going into that game. He maybe was 50% or 60%, but he played, he battled through an injury, and now he appears to be healthy. 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That number was 50-50, 12-12 last year at New Mexico. You could not ask for a better year on paper than what Utah is getting from Devin Dampier. And I think it's very much what Kansas State fans were hoping they would get from Avery Johnson, who was really good against TCU, by the way, deserves a ton of credit. But Devin Dampier, he is the poster child for a run-first quarterback who doesn't make mistakes and is still a very capable passer.
How concerning is Brennan Sorsby's performance and Cincinnati's offensive output? The other side of this coin is, how concerning are some of these quarterback performances given what we've seen throughout the course of the year. Hoover is in it right now. Hoover is probably the reason for 2 straight losses for TCU.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Hoover's the type of guy where it's like Hoover giveth and Hoover taketh right now. But his 2 mistakes, and you could probably put the first one on Ed Small a little bit. It's a pass that's thrown behind the line of scrimmage. It needs to be pursued in a more aggressive manner from Ed Small. But Hoover had big-time turnovers against Arizona State in the second half of the game that cost him the game. And then against K-State, same thing. The pick 6 basically cost him the game, but it was the fumble throw behind the line of scrimmage that played a huge role in it too. And then, like, Bear Bachmeier. Baron Morton. Will Hammond. Like, where do you put them in the mix in terms of performances? Like, they did enough. The running game did enough for Texas Tech. And for Bear Bachmeier, the running game did enough. The mistakes nearly cost them, but didn't. BYU overcame them because they're a complimentary football team. Just kind of surveying the full breadth and landscape of the Big 12 right now in terms of the quarterback position.
Yeah, I think, I'll start with Sorsby because he was probably the hottest quarterback going into this weekend. In short, I'm not concerned about his effort. Cincinnati, that was very much a let's get to Sunday type game, a day at the office. They were up 17-3 at halftime. Okay, their defense was really stout. They were dominating. They were very conservative offensively. Sorsby only attempted 21 passes for the game. He had 8 carries. I mean, in bigger games, he's throwing the football 30, 40 times, and he's taking off with the football closer to 15. Cincinnati, it was very much ground and pound. They were running the ball on first down, a really, really, they ran the ball 15 times on first down. They threw it 9, and a lot of their throws were underneath. They still had 119 yards of their almost 200 yards passing on first down. So my point is, it was let's get an early lead and let's sit on the football. So Sorsby's game, I'm not super concerned about.
And I think just like big picture, good teams win games where they're at their most comfortable. Great teams win the game when they're not. Mm-hmm. And that's like Cincinnati, BYU, Texas Tech are 3 good examples of that. If you script a game to play to the strengths of each of these teams, I'm not sure that they would look like these games looked. And yet, despite that, they won. And I think that's, again, a testament to really good elite teams. Now, the Bear Bachmeier thing is so interesting because, like, how do we evaluate him? And if he has a few bad games, like, shouldn't we expect that? Shouldn't we expect that a true freshman should have some bad games and they lose? So it feels like expectations for BYU are so high right now, and they're unreasonable. They're unreasonable from the standpoint of, at some point, the true freshman quarterback is going to look like a true freshman quarterback, and it might cost you the game. It didn't on Saturday, and he did at times. But it's just a weird place to be because trying to give him an accurate evaluation is tough because a true freshman should not be doing what he's doing right now.
Right. And I didn't think he had a bad game. I think that maybe the expectations are a little unfair because he's been so good. Like, if you look at
he didn't have a bad game. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But the mistakes nearly cost him the game. If Safarchik doesn't jump on the fumble at the 4-yard line, BYU loses that game.
Right. And that's a teachable moment. You've got to hang on to the football. Ball security is really important. But BYU, on their 3rd and shorts, their 3rd downs that were either 3rd and 1 up to 3rd and 4, they were 7 for 10. Okay, a lot of that is him through the air, short passes, or they're picking it up via LJ Martin. Like his short passing, he's 7 for 12. His medium passes, which are 5 to 14 yards, he's 3 for 5. It was really only his deep passes where he just was not connecting. And Arizona's got a really high-level secondary. It's really good. They're long. They're athletic. That's the strength of their defense. Bear Bachmeier was 2 for 8 passing on throws over 15 yards. So it was just the deep ball that skewed his completion percentage. Now, the fumble, there's no excuse for that. That's a mistake that can't happen. But he made some plays.
He did.
With his legs.
He did. And that's why, again, I wouldn't say, like, he nearly cost them the game. I didn't think Bear Bachmeier had a bad game. And even in a bad game by Bear Bachmeier, he still does enough alternatively to where you can kind of see what his ceiling is and what his floor is. Like, this game is a good representation of his floor because he had 2 interceptions. The first one didn't cost him as much as the second one did. The fumble nearly cost him the game, but despite those 3 mistakes, everything else he did was helped his team win. He is the type of quarterback that contributes to winning in so many different ways. And I think this is his floor is what we saw in this game. And that's where, again, like, when you can win, when you play like that, that's a testament to a great team.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to win when everything's going your way. And you've got, a 70% completion percentage and you got 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. It's another thing when you're not throwing the ball particularly well and you're still able to manufacture a win. And that's what BYU did. And again, testament to LJ Martin. This was the week of breakout performances at the running back position, and LJ Martin was right there. BYU doesn't win this game without LJ Martin playing the way that it did, because defenses can really cue in on you now if you're not able to run the ball like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they could, that allowed Bear Bachmeier to have some openings, especially like on throws where the defense is so underneath that it gives you some stuff to run, gives you some holes to run through.
BYU also showed a ton of confidence in Bear Bachmeier, because after the fumble, he ran the ball in the next 2 plays. And I had written down Carson Ryan as an unsung hero for BYU, because on the 2-yard quarterback keeper that Bachmeier tied the game in regulation on, Carson Ryan had not caught a pass all game. But from his tight end position, he sealed the edge, and he had the block that sprung Bachmeier into the end zone for a 2-yard touchdown, where he had to identify the defender, he had to whip around quickly to make the block. I mean, it was poetry in motion. It was flawless.
Yeah, that's a great call out on your part, because you're totally right in terms of Carson Ryan's factor in this game. Like, production-wise, nothing stands out, but the running game is a testament to their ability up front, and Carson Ryan sealing the edge. It's a great call out by you. And, ultimately, again, like, this is where BYU is just the essence of a complementary football team. Like, they are really good all around. It does not mean they're going to end the season undefeated. In fact, I'd bet on them losing a game, but it's just tough to beat them, because their running game, like, they're just really good 1 through 53, as you'd say in an NFL roster, right? Like, their special teams is really good. Like, they've got an elite return guy in Parker Kingston. They've got an elite kicker in Will Farron. They're really good up front on their offensive line. They're really good up front on defense with their defensive line. Like, they just don't have very many holes. And though the loss of Jack Kelly, I thought, played into this, like, they didn't really miss him that much. Not enough that they obviously didn't cost him the game.
Yeah. Glasgow was big, but they have the toughest schedule left in the Big 12 with Utah, and then their next 2 games, they get Utah at home. Then they're at Iowa State, and then they're at Texas Tech. They come back to Provo against TCU, and then they go at Cincinnati. Nobody in the Big 12 has a more difficult upcoming schedule than BYU. If they get through that, even with a loss, with that schedule, if they go 4-1 in their next 5 games, get to the Big 12 championship game, even lose to Texas Tech there, hypothetically, very much should be in the conversation for a college football playoff at large.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. I think the way that things are setting up, the Big 12 is in better position now than it's ever been to have 2 bids. Now, things have to continue to happen. Like, I'd wonder if Utah lost twice to Texas Tech, losing and then losing the Big 12 championship, would that be enough? I think BYU certainly would be.
What a case study that would be if Utah ran the table against everybody but Texas Tech, but had 2 losses to the Red Raiders. Would they get in?
Right. Probably should.
Should, yes, absolutely. All right, coming up next, we wrap up the program with the final whistle. We are eating the cookies. The cookies will be eaten. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and via Big 12 Studios. Visually there, this is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, your home for the Big 12 Conference via TuneIn. If you missed any of our recent interviews or favorite segments, you can always go back via your favorite podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, right here, TuneIn on demand to hear replays. You can also see us via Big 12 Studios, the Big 12 Fast Channel, via your Roku device or Amazon Prime, Fire Stick, or DirecTV. Our favorite place is YouTube. We interact with our listeners, and the Big 12 winners from this past college football slate: Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, Colorado, Cincinnati, Houston, and Kansas State. It's the final segment of the program, the final whistle, as we call it here, and we like to do something fun. And I've been trying to figure out why Ari's been scowling at me for the last 2.5 hours, and it turns out he's very put off by the fact that Taman and I have not tried his wife's cookies.
It's a breakfast cookie. It's delicious.
Okay,
it's also
tell me
healthy
about it.
for you.
I'm-
Our buddy James Faust, who's commenting on our YouTube channel, says he would like a breakfast cookie. He would not have waited 3 hours nearly to eat the breakfast cookie, so have at it.
Okay, I see.
By the way, I want your true, uninhibited response here. I don't want you to just placate to my wife, who may or may not be listening and watching right now.
Okay. Just on the surface, if I'm looking at this cookie on paper, it's filled with chocolate. I see a lot of chocolate. A lot of chocolate. Looks like it went through a chocolate chip avalanche. It's very chocolatey. So
I agree.
I'm questioning the health factor.
I have to say, it looks nice on the surface. James has tried. It's my turn.
Remember, it's oat flour, flax, hemp hearts, date syrup. So the date syrup's what gives it the sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
Peanut butter, egg, chocolate chips, banana, baking soda.
Sweet Mother of Mary, that's good. That is tasty. That's a tasty treat.
Wow. Well,
It's tasty.
It's
I
dense.
I feel like I taste the peanut butter.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm not.
Taman doesn't like peanut
that's
butter.
right. Taman doesn't like the peanut butter. So Taman's out. For that reason, Taman's out. You're not allergic to peanut butter, are you?
No.
Taman's
I like peanuts.
Taman's like throat is closing up. He's like, nobody told me there was peanut butter in it.
I'm gonna pot myself down, guys. I can't.
Somebody give me an EpiPen. Taman's like, I'm okay.
Very good.
We're like, James, what do you think?
I mean,
Taman needs an EpiPen. What do you think?
He's fine. It smelled on the surface like dessert, not discipline, which is what we're all about here.
Yeah.
It's very good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's the
It's
last thing I'm
very
ever going to bring you that my wife cooks.
No, I like it. I like it. In fact, now I had to wash it down because of its density. So I'm probably only going to eat about half of it. I'll eat the other half when we wrap here, but 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up?
2 thumbs up.
Only 2, huh?
I want to tell your wife, Ari, that it's not her, it's me.
Yeah.
It's that I am a picky eater, so I am sure it is good, but this is just a Taman thing.
Yeah.
No hard feelings.
Don't worry. Nobody's offended here except for my wife.
No, it's really good. Now, we've been on a big protein ball kick in our house. I'm not sure what all goes into it, so I appreciate the breakdown of what's in this breakfast cookie. I'll bring you guys some protein balls, and we can have like a breakfast cookie protein ball showdown.
Yeah, see, and my wife needs to know this. James looked at the cookie initially and was like, oh, is there protein in this? So James basically only eats food with protein
Yeah,
in
if it doesn't have protein, I don't eat it.
Now, peanut butter, as we know, is a great protein source.
Yes, it is.
So don't worry, you're still bodybuilding eating that cookie.
Right. That's what I'm here.
It just may not be as many protein
What I'm all about.
per grams that you're used to. But I mean, you're pretty fit, dude. I mean, you're TV ready.
Yeah, you touched my stomach the other day, and you were really surprised by my abs.
You touch my stomach, it's a little bit more jiggly, a little bit more forgiving. Now I'm 40. You're I can't remember how old you are, but you're in much better shape.
I would say this cookie is Sigma. It's a Sigma cookie.
I know what that means.
Sigma is a lone wolf, somebody independent.
Got it.
Doesn't
Okay.
care about the social norms.
I know what alpha is. I know what
Yeah,
beta
that
is.
cookie's Sigma.
I know sigma's like it's a Greek letter.
That's it.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm working on my slang.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's pretty Sigma. It's a Sigma cookie.
All right, I know that you.
It's a tough cookie. That's a tough cookie. Tough cookie,
I don't
Taman.
know what you're saying
It's
now.
a tough cookie. TUFF.
Got it.
It's a tough cookie.
So is it a good thing?
Yeah.
Sigma Tough. These
Yeah,
are good.
All good things.
Good.
Should
All
we
good
name
things.
it Sigma Tough Cookie? Because I understand it's a breakfast cookie, but it needs like a unique name for itself. There's chocolate chip cookies,
The
sugar cookies.
Sigma Tough
Sigma
Cookie.
Tough Cookie.
No.
I'm a big fan.
How about just breakfast cookie? It's a cookie you can eat from breakfast that you feel good about.
What was the highlight of your weekend?
Highlight of my weekend.
Yeah.
As much as I love
Exciting?
youth sports for my kids, it was great to have a break from youth sports for this weekend. Kids are in the midst of a fall break, which we didn't have when we were kids. Lord knows kids need more breaks now than we did when we were kids.
Wait, so you didn't have any sports this weekend?
No, I'm sure you didn't either, right?
I don't know. I wasn't here.
Yeah, you're never here for the weekends. You don't
never
know.
here.
So yeah, I mean, the kids are in fall break, which means they have Monday and Friday off. So they're off today. They're off on Friday. I think they're supposed to go to the fair one of those days. My other highlight of the weekend was watching the Cubs lose. That was awesome. As people that know me know, I'm wearing a Bears shirt. I'm a huge Bears fan. I'm a huge Chicago sports fan, but I hate the Cubs. White Sox fan. So I was like very much needing the Brewers to finish off the Cubs, and they did. So good job, Brewers. Way to go. What about you? What's the highlight of your weekend?
Highlight of my weekend was probably yesterday, because yesterday was the dream scenario for me. So I was in Florida calling a game for ESPN on Saturday, and I took like the first flight back yesterday morning. Had to get up at like 4-something a.m. Central Time to catch that flight. So I'm tired, and I do that a lot. So each and every Sunday I get back home, and I'm exhausted. Sundays are a day of rest. So I really lean into that. Sundays I need a recharge. But the problem that's been developing in our house is that my wife, and when she has the kids, my wife and kids, they don't really go out and do much when I'm gone. So when I get back, they're going stir crazy in the house, and they're wanting to get out and do a bunch of stuff, run a bunch of errands, do something fun. And for me, I'm thinking, no.
So can you not do the whole like, oh yeah, you guys go out, have a great time, like that's awesome. I'm just gonna sit back and stay back and.
That doesn't work in the Westling house, Ari.
That's like foreign language to James.
Daredevil.
He has no idea what that means.
No. So, but this weekend I got the rare alignment of the marriage calendar, because she went out Saturday. Her dad was in town. They went and watched the Texas OU game and then saw some friends and were out until the wee hours of the morning. So she was just as tired yesterday. So I got to sit around all day yesterday and do absolutely nothing.
That's amazing.
It was a bye week for the soul.
Did you watch football then all day Sunday? I'm assuming you just sat there on the couch like a blog and watched football nonstop.
I mean, I watched a little bit of football, but not a lot. No, I watched a lot of my favorite shows. Played a little PlayStation. You know, we're working on a championship in Cincinnati.
I wish I hated sports as much as James does.
Here's the thing. All right, we do sports every day.
Every day.
I love sports.
Sometimes twice a day.
Sometimes several times a day. And then I'm doing sports on the weekend. By Sunday, I'm sportsed out. I'm sportsed out by Sundays. Okay? Yeah, you're right. On Sundays, I don't like sports. I'm sportsed out on Sundays. All right?
By the way,
I'd rather watch Paradise on Hulu.
Speaking of, and I appreciate your energy there.
Work on some protein balls, and by work on, I mean my wife makes them and I eat them.
Dillon Gabriel, 25 of 52 for 221 yards and 0 touchdowns. He had 221 yards on 52 passing attempts.
I thought Shedeur was supposed to start.
No, Dillon Gabriel's the guy, and Gabriel has these like very overconfident like things that he's saying that are kind of knocks on Shedeur. And it's like, man, I wonder how long Cleveland's going to watch 25 of 52 for 221 yards and 0 touchdowns.
52 attempts to get to 220 yards.
That is 4.3 per attempt.
That's not good. That's real bad.
By the way, there was one throw he had where you could tell he cannot see over the lineman.
That's a problem.
This is the reason you don't draft a quarterback that's
a problem.
5 feet tall. And by the way, speaking of Will Howard, the Browns passed to both Howard and Shedeur Sanders in order to draft Gabriel. Now, they ended up getting Shedeur, but they could have had both. Instead, they're like, oh, yeah, you know the guy that's like 6'2" and built like a truck and has a big-time arm that just helped this team win a national championship?
No, we don't want
let's take the 5'11" guy that runs around a bunch and never really won much in terms of postseason play in college football, but we think he's a darling. He's adorable.
The Panthers beat the Cowboys?
You had to bring that up, James. Ari texted me.
Literally
I wonder why.
minutes, seconds after the game went
As soon
final.
as it went final.
So, last week we called out Taman, who's very quick to talk smack on our teams. So, James, you sent out a salvo text early in the weekend, like Taman, like, by the way, just remember, like, let's not talk smack. And I was like, absolutely not. I am locked and loaded and ready to go. I was ready if Texas were going to lose because Taman's a T-shirt Texas fan.
Which that did not happen.
T-shirt Texas fan. You know what that means, Taman? Have you heard that before?
I have. I have heard it before, and Ari's throwing shots, but I can say this: Texas won. Did Kansas win?
Fan of a program where you didn't
go
attend school.
Well, I know that, but I grew up in a Longhorns family.
All right.
I get a pass.
No, you don't. I mean, you get a pass.
My college doesn't have a football team anymore. They took it away from us.
Maybe go somewhere that has a football team.
We did. Marcus Colston, 2009, Hofstra, CAA, baby.
Let's go, Marcus
Roll
Colston.
Pride.
That's a good call.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, but we could all at least agree that it was fun to watch Dylan Gabriel really struggle in his debut as the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns.
They lost 23-9 to the Steelers, who were 4-1 with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
But yeah, and also as you mentioned, the Carolina Panthers beat the Dallas Cowboys, and so I immediately, as the game went final, shot off a text to Taman and to you, but you weren't paying attention clearly.
Defense stinks. It's the worst in the NFL history. We have the number one offense in the NFL and the worst defense in the NFL.
Let's see, any
Horrible.
Jerry Jones just a victim of circumstance, man. He just can't find himself in the right circumstance for his team.
Any Big 12 guys ball out? Looks like Jalen Warren had a good game for the Steelers, the former Oklahoma State running back.
Tetero McMillan had 2 touchdowns in that game we're alluding to.
2 touchdowns.
2 tutties.
Couple of
for,
tutties.
For the rookie Tet McMillan. Trying to think. Cam Scadaboo had a huge week.
Yeah.
This week.
T-Mac getting 2 touchdowns in a game, that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Breece Hall led the Jets in rushing, although 22 carries for 59 yards. It's not great.
Yeah.
It's not his fault.
I love how
it's not his fault.
Your thinking got a little bit ahead of you.
It's not his fault.
All these guys are on my fantasy team. If you remember, I basically have a Big 12 fantasy football team. I've got Scadaboo, I've got Breece Hall, I've got Tetero McMillan.
How's that going?
Not great. Not great. I'm on the precipice of falling to 2-4.
2-4?
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, 257 yesterday, 3 touchdowns, no big deal. Chiefs beat the Lions 30-17.
You watch that one? The alleged Chiefs fan over here?
Yeah, a ton. The whole game. I couldn't get enough of it.
Did you not watch any of it? You're unreal. You cannot claim the Chiefs as your team. Sorry, you can't.
Why can't I claim?
You have to watch the games.
Every game. I have to watch every game.
Do you know who they played yesterday?
The Lions.
Okay, just wanted to
I have to
make
watch
sure.
every game.
You have to watch every game. Do you watch any games?
Yes, I watched some games.
The game was on by itself on Sunday night last night against one of the best teams in the NFL.
No, I was up to my midsection in paradise on Hulu by that time.
James, you missed a good thing that happened yesterday.
Which is a banger.
How many Chiefs games have you watched this year?
2. At least 2.
Taylor Swift and Caitlin Clark were both at the game
2.
last
Yeah,
night.
it's true.
At least 2.
T. Swift and Caitlin Clark were at the game last night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why was Caitlin Clark there?
Nobody knows.
Why would you ask such a ridiculous question, James?
Why was she there?
Because she goes where she wants,
Well,
James.
was Indiana playing somebody in the area? That's my question.
No, the season's over.
Oh,
the Las Vegas Aces won. By the way, the season for Caitlin Clark has been over for a while.
That's right.
Congrats to Las Vegas Aces for winning the championship again.
How do you feel about Halloween parties?
Are you just like rummaging through some topics?
Yeah, rapid fire.
Very good. Halloween's on a Friday this year. I feel great about it. I'm going to be extremely intoxicated on Halloween.
Do you have your costume?
Yeah.
What is it?
Okay, so this is kind of a deep cut here. All right, so we've got my kids watching The Simpsons, which is not the most appropriate show for 7 to 10-year-olds, but I digress. So my older son's going to be Bart Simpson, and my younger son is going to be Dennis the Menace, because there's an episode of The Simpsons in which the George H.W. Bush and his wife Barbara move in across the street, and Bart is basically playing the role of Dennis the Menace. So it's a deep cut where my wife and I are going to be George and Barbara Bush, and my kids are going to be Dennis the Menace
I like that.
and Bart Simpson.
That's good.
Thank you.
I like that. Well done. Well done.
It's the problem is it's kind of a long explanation, so we'll see how much it's George Bush
Yeah,
or how much it's Mr. Wilson.
Have
you know?
fun explaining that every 10
It's
minutes.
more of like it's Mr. Wilson or George
You
Bush.
might want to write that down. Read off your hand.
Okay, Mr. I know great Halloween costumes. What are you going to be for Halloween?
It's up in the air. It's up in the air.
Johnny
It's on a
Bravo?
Friday. I probably won't be in town. So I don't know. I might be a security guard. My wife's going to a couples party that I didn't think I was going to be able to attend, and so she's going with another friend as the Olsen sisters. And there's apparently a third Olsen sister, but I'm going to be their bodyguard.
So you're not going to be the third Olsen sister.
Security. No, that's what that was what the people wanted. But I think bodyguard fits me.
How do I get in on the vote here? Can I vote for you to be the third?
Because I'm going to look too good as a woman. That's why, Ari. You'll make fun of me.
No, you'll look perfect because the third Olsen kid was not as well. You'll see.
Pretty good week for us in our pick'em. Once again, we'll go over that tomorrow. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Taman Turner's been producing and engineering. We're back mañana from 8 to 11 Eastern, 7 to 10 Central, right here via TuneIn and Big 12 Studios and Big12Studios.com. We'll talk to you then. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league.
Extra people coming. Fafita gets away. What a chop by Fafita! A sidearm dart right to